Welcome in to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Got a good show in store for you today, folks. You know, there is a event out there. I'll call it an event. It really is. It's a crime. It's a serial killing crime out there that it inspired Bruce Springsteen to write one of his more famous albums, one of his more obscure albums, one of the albums that his fans out there absolutely, I guess you could say, salivate over, because it creatively is one of his deepest albums. It is an event that inspired Stephen King to become an author. It's an event that shocked the Midwest. It's the killings of Charlie Starkweather. And in that, he brought along a 14-year-old girl who, it could be argued, either was his accomplice or was just an innocent girl who was brought along for the ride and was terrified along the way, by the name of Caril Fugate. And in that, there's the rub, there's the controversy, and the story of whether she was given a fair deal, a raw deal, and what happened with her. She was represented by an attorney who was a fine, upstanding attorney, an attorney who tried to do what he could for her, and an interesting man at that, an attorney by the name of John McArthur, who in himself has an amazing story. And that story has been brought now to a book that's out there called Pro Bono, the 18-year defense of Caril Fugate, and is written by his grandson, Jeff MacArthur, who's joining us today on True Crime Tuesday. I want to bring him in now. Let's welcome into True Crime Tuesday, Jeff MacArthur. Jeff, how you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure, my friend, to have you here. Jeff, let's start it off, first of all, and let's get a little bit of background on you and find out a little bit about you. You went away to New York to study filmmaking, correct? And then moved out there to Los Angeles. Tell us a little bit about how the film and acting bug hit you.
Well, actually, I was 6 years old when Star Wars came out. And actually, before that, I actually was starting to become interested in just telling stories. Before I could even read, I wanted to tell stories. So I kind of made my own alphabet and started writing stories before I could even read. But then, I struggled, as any kid would, to tell those stories. And then I was taken to see Star Wars in 1977 at the age of 6, and visually saw that, the story was going on. And I went, oh, wow, that's what I want to do. I want to take what's in my mind and put it on screen. Mm-hmm. And I spent basically my, youth and teenage years writing stories and making little movies with a video camera and all that. Made my first one across the street from where my grandfather lived, actually. We didn't really pay attention to much of what was going on with him. I mean, so much of this story this very famous story was happening across the street while I was ignoring it, going and making these little movies. Anyway, then as a teenager, I got interested in going to NYU for film school, went off there, spent the 4 years there. And then during my junior year, there was a movie made about, again, this story called Murder in the Heartland, which was a TV movie about the Charles Starkweather story. My father was brought on as a consultant for that. And so I came down there since they were making a movie. I went down there and spent several days on set, got to know the people, et cetera. And several of them encouraged me to go out to LA. They're like, there's more stuff going on out here, et cetera. So I moved to LA to get into the film industry, work with them, and, basically spent like around close to 20 years trying to get something made, working, in various things. Nothing really panned out. I mean, I worked in multiple different things, have a lot of wild stories and stuff like that. Came very, very close to getting several movies made. Made a couple small things myself, but nothing really happened with that. But then I circled back around to this story, the one about my grandfather's involvement with the Fugate and Starkweather story. And in particular, there's so many people made different movies and documentaries and stuff like that, where they were just constantly making them inaccurately, just telling the story they wanted to tell rather than anything that was really resembled the true story. And for one thing, it's a more dramatic story than they were portraying. And for another, it was just, I felt it was very unjust the way that people would just take this true story and make up what they wanted. So I finally just decided to set the record straight and write a book myself. And I actually met some publishers as well at a certain point. And I went, you know what? It's about time. I really should write this. this. So I sat down, wrote it, ended up just, they had a whole story that took 4 years with those publishers who kind of strung me along, but finally ended up just going ahead and publishing it independently and sent it out into the world. And it wound up getting attention like that, just sort of that way under the name, like you said, Pro Bono, the 18-year defense of Caril Fugate, and launched my book career. So now I'm writing books instead of making movies. Which
do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy books or movies more?
That's kind of the ultimate question. When I was a freshman at NYU, there was, as a photography assignment, they told us to do 2 autobiographical photographs. And I was like, you know what, this really is my split personality. And I did one photograph of myself making movies, and it was very much of the extrovert of me. And then I did the other that's the writer. And quite frankly, I loved them both. I mean, I kind of put it in past tense because it's just at a certain point, the movies, I just never really went anywhere, and I haven't really made much effort. But what I like doing now actually is writing the books. I love the freedom of just being able to write the book and just put it out there and know that it's out there, know that my version exists. And to me, the perfect world is doing that, having the real version be the book that got out there, but then having a movie version of it, for one thing, to get more people to see what it is. But also there is something to, because this is what I loved about making movies, is the interaction with other people. I mean, other people bring up ideas. I have one book that was originally a film I was trying to make for 18 years called The American Game, where I spent 18 years trying to make it into a movie. Now it's a book, but much of it involves those 18 years of people coming and talking about basically giving ideas and input and all that sort of thing. As one example, Jaimin Hansu came in to meet with us as playing one of the roles at one point, and he told me about one of the. He basically said what one of the characters really should be, his interpretation of it. And I was like, you know what? Yeah. And that became that character's arc. And it really was, it wasn't like it was a specific line he said, but rather the mood of it or whatever. And so there's a little bit of him in it, and there's a little bit of all these people over 18 years. So I miss that interaction in movie making, but it is nice when I sit down on something like Relic Worlds, which is another series of mine, where it's just purely out of my mind and, my experiences and all that sort of thing. And
your vision. Because it's one thing when you create a world that's purely of your vision, and you have the idea of how things should run, but really when you have that creative input from other sources, you go, man, I never thought of that. And then you spin off of that. And it's amazing when you have that creative input from other sources where things can go, and how much different and better it can be as well. In particular, like the example I gave with Jaimin Hansu, the character was African American, and there are certain experiences that, while I can certainly take from what I've heard and stuff like that, hearing it from somebody who has had those experiences, I was able to integrate it more effectively. And so, that is one of the beauties of storytelling and filmmaking, or anything that is more interactive. Yeah, exactly. This book, I got to tell you, Jeff, I enjoyed this book a lot. I sat down with it, and the one thing I do love about your writing, not just only being descriptive, but really getting a feel for what your grandfather was like. It's almost like I was almost sitting next to you, sitting with him and getting to know him, and really getting a feel for him, and what kind of man he was. And to me, I worked with a man, I think almost exactly like him in radio for years, who really was just a stand-up guy, an old-fashioned stand-up guy who believed in the systems in which he was working within, I think is a fair way to put that. Is that pretty much right in John McArthur? Yes, absolutely. He loved the law, which sounds like a strange thing. People are usually more, in love with the arts. I love to paint, or I love photography, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But he loved the law, and he referred to it as the practical application of philosophy. He loved philosophy, he loved history, and he saw the law as a way of enacting that in a practical way. And so, he particularly decided, that's one of the reasons he became very passionate about this case, was because he felt
that this girl was railroaded by the law, and that was a personal affront to him because he feels the law is very important. The rules that we have for any society, the protection of citizens. But when those protections then work against somebody, it can be a great source of evil. And so he saw it as sort of a personal affront that they would utilize this thing that he loved so much to go after a 14-year-old child.
Mm-hmm. There's something interesting about the law, too, in that much like, as you pointed out, the arts or even paints or using film, you can interpret something some way, you can show it to someone some way, and they can interpret it a different way. And the law is a lot like an art in that we can write a law, we can put it out there, it can be interpreted one way, it can be practiced another.
Right.
And you can get an outcome a different way every single time.
Yeah.
And I think this book is a very good example of how we can put a law out there, or we can put laws out there, and then we can put somebody in the shining light of that law, or put them in the scenario of laws, and then we can spin their story and put them in that shining light of that law and see what happens. And we can put a prosecution in there, we can put a defense in there.
Right.
And we can see what they can do with it, and find out if we can change somebody's life according to that law.
Right.
And we'll set things up here for the people who aren't familiar with, and let's just run this down real quick here, Jeff. I'll have you do this. For people who aren't familiar with the story of Charles Starkweather and Caril Fugate, tell people just a little bit about what happened here with Charles and with Caril Ann.
Okay, well, yeah, in 1958, actually, during 1957, this girl named Caril Fugate was 14 years old. She was dating this 19-year-old man, and the parenting was not being as strict as maybe they should have. But then in January of 58, her parents said that she should break up with him, and she was already having some doubts about him because he was a bit nuts. So she broke up with him. A few days later, she disappeared from school. Nobody saw her or anything. His family and her family started, her family disappeared as well. Her stepfather, or her father-in-law, her stepfather, her mother, and her 2-year-old half-sister all had disappeared as well. And so his family, and then her grandmother and sister and several other people started showing up at the door going, "What's going on? Where's Charlie? What are you guys doing?" And she kept saying that they're sick with the flu. And she even left a note up that said, "Go away, everyone sick with the flu, Miss Bartlett." And she underlined Miss Bartlett 3 times. The only Miss Bartlett in the house, the only one who would be a Miss Bartlett would be her 2-year-old. The only one who would be a Miss Bartlett in the home would be her 2-year-old half sister. She went by Fugate, which was her mother's former marriage, etc. Anyway, and so the rest of the family realized there's a problem here. They went to the police, tried to say, "Hey, something's going on. You need to go check it out." But there was this wealth discrepancy. Like there's the wrong side of the tracks. In Lincoln, it was the wrong side of O Street. You had one side of O Street with the poor, the other side were the more affluent. And the police were just like, "Oh, that's North O Street. We don't want to bother with it. Leave them alone." And finally, they were convinced to go look there, and they knocked on the door, and they saw Caril with her finger in front of her mouth and pointing to the side, saying, "Everyone's sick with flu, please go away." And the police didn't get the hint and just said, and they told the grandmother, "Stop bothering them," etc., and left. And even then, the grandmother kept trying to say, "Look, didn't you see the clues? Didn't you see the hints?" And the police just wouldn't bother. Finally, Charlie's brother and Caril's brother-in-law just broke into the place. Charlie and Caril had left, but they found the bodies of their parents and half-sister in both the chicken shed and the outhouse out back. And so they called the police and said, "We just found 3 bodies. Will you come and look now?" And so the police did go there, but over the next few days, more and more bodies were found, first out in the country, and then it was a farmer, and 2 teenagers were found further out in the country. And while the police were out investigating that 3 more people were murdered inside of Lincoln, and very, very affluent family, the father, it was basically a husband, wife, and their maid, the Ward family. He was so powerful. He had literally just come from meeting with the governor. Like literally, that was the last person to see him alive. And he came home. So when that family was found murdered, then suddenly they brought out the National Guard. So poor side of town, don't bother them. Very wealthy, affluent family killed. Call out the National Guard. I mean, the entire town went into shutdown. Yeah. Every gun store was sold out in minutes. They closed the school so quickly that the bus drivers were not even allowed to pick them up. The kids had to walk home while this whole thing is going on. Just absolute madness in town. And then they're found in Wyoming. Caril has actually jumped out of the car and run to a police officer and pointed out Charlie. Charlie was just about to murder another person, and the officer who was there bravely picked up his walkie-talkie and called for somebody else to chase him. And he had Caril, and it was, I even joke about him because of the fact that he then was later touted as a hero as having captured Caril Fugate. So if anybody researches this story and finds out Charlie and Caril were captured, no, they weren't captured, or she was not captured. She ran to the police. With him, they had a 100-mile-an-hour car chase through the roads of Wyoming. Even when it ended up going through Douglas, Wyoming, the bumpers locked at one point. There was people leaning out the window shooting. I mean, it was like straight out of a movie, which is ironic because none of the movies made about this have actually portrayed that chase scene. Anyway. They did manage to run Charlie to ground, and then Caril is turning to them, going, "Where's my family?" And her family were the first ones killed. There was actually one other person murdered the month before, which they found out about later. But in the actual murder spree, her family was the first ones murdered. And now suddenly there's this whole other side to the story that the police should have investigated, but they had already pressed charges against her, and they weren't about to change it to anything. They just were like, nope, she's, and so they were building this case against her. And nobody told her what the charges were against her, and nobody gave her an attorney. And she went for a couple weeks without an attorney until my grandfather was finally. It wasn't until the Lincoln Bar Association said, or it might have been Nebraska Bar Association. Anyway, the local bar association insisted that she have an attorney, and they called actually for my. This isn't in the book. I learned this later. They tried to appoint my grandfather's partner, but the partner was out on safari, and so they got my grandfather instead. And I later learned is like, well, they tried to get the partner because the partner wouldn't really try very hard. They just wanted to railroad this girl and send her to prison forever. But my grandfather was the one who was there, and he's the one who had all the integrity. So he went, yeah, sure, I'll take the case. And it wasn't because he believed so much in her innocence. He just had a strong belief that in the system. He always said that he represented his client, but he defended the Constitution. And in her case, it was, the papers were all saying she was his partner, that she had helped kill people, all that sort of thing. But my grandfather was like, no, everybody deserves an attorney. If he had been assigned to Charlie, he would have been his attorney, because to him, it was defending the Constitution. He was very, very, very much of a constitutionalist, a very big believer in that. Yeah. But once he went to her, and she's just like, wait, why are you talking about, my case? I thought we were talking about Charlie. And he goes, oh, no, I'm your attorney. And she was confused as to what this all was, because they had spent a couple of weeks just talking with her and getting her to admit to all these things that sound self-incriminating without ever even offering an attorney. And so then he just became her attorney and represented her in court. She was still found guilty. The jury all said, well, it's because they literally, when they were asked why, they said, because she looked guilty. And she was given life imprisonment, and he just was such a strong believer in her innocence by that point that he remained with her for 18 years until he got her out of prison. And he did it all for free, which is why I call the book Pro Bono. That's amazing.
And there's so much to dig into in between those lines here. The one thing that's amazing, and I keep using the word amazing, this really is an amazing case. The one thing that's astonishing, I'll use that word, in this is that as Charles and Caril Ann are on their reign of terror, we'll put it that way. We'll sensationalize it, or as they're on their killing spree. Yeah. There's more than one story that goes on about the dynamic between Caril Ann and Charles. Right. There's the dynamic of Caril Ann is being drug along unwillingly, that she's terrified out of her mind, that she she wants to escape, but she's frozen in fear.
Yeah.
That she keeps, I believe it's a note in her pocket that she wrote herself.
Yeah.
That she doesn't know what to do. She sees people being killed in front of her. She thinks that she could, her parents are being basically, what's the story that her parents are being held, or Charles has told her that?
What she claimed is that Charles met her at the door when she got home from school and said, your parents are being held by my friends, and if you don't do as I tell you, then I'm going to have them. I'll call my friends and have them killed. Or if you try to escape, I'll call my friends and have them killed. He reiterated it when he killed a farmer who had been a friend of his. He had introduced Caril to him, months before, as his friend, and then just all of a sudden out of nowhere, he just picked up his gun, shot him dead, and then turned to Caril, and then he beat the dog to death. Actually, then he turned to Caril and said, "If you don't do everything I tell you to do, I'm going to kill you."
Oh. So there's that part of it where she's frozen in fear. There's the other part of it where, and we find this out from Charles after he's arrested, where he changes his story over and over and over again.
Right.
Where he says, "Oh no. Now that I'm caught, I've got a whole new story for you."
Yeah.
And that's
he didn't even.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, he didn't even, initially when he was caught, his story matched hers exactly. Like it was just directly beat by beat, the exact same story, and the exact same story as hers, that she had been kidnapped, blah, blah, blah. And he continued to repeat that story all the way back to Nebraska, although every now and then he would write something that contradicted it, but it would always be completely inaccurate. Like at one point he said, I killed 9 all men, she killed 2 all women. And it's like, well, that's not even how the gender matched out, in terms of the victims and blah, blah, blah. But in terms of whenever he'd give a statement, it was always the same, that he had kidnapped her and he'd taken her at gunpoint, and all the statements lined up. Then when they got back to Lincoln, one of the prosecuting attorneys who was one of the prosecuting attorneys also against Caril, continuing to be in the guise of, "Oh, I'm on your side," goes to her and goes, "Oh, do you have anything you want to say to Charlie?" She goes, "Yes, I don't want to see him. He's crazy, et cetera." And so he said, "Well, do you want to put that on paper?" And she wrote out this thing, just deriding him. And then he took that to Charlie and said, "She's been saying you're crazy." And Charlie went, "Well, let me tell you the real story." And suddenly he started telling this whole story about how she had helped out. And it didn't even fit the evidence, the physical evidence that had been found. And then when when the police had him repeat the story, he told it completely different. And then literally every single time he told it totally different. And that is sort of the difference. A lot of people believe that there's this contradiction between the two, that there's, her being a victim, and then there's was she, helping him? And that the narrative of her helping him is what has always gotten out there. But again, it just doesn't fit the physical evidence, the story literally the only evidence that she helped him came from Charlie's various stories. And this is a guy who's obviously out of his mind. He changed the story every time, and it doesn't match the physical evidence. So yeah, there are those two stories, but one of them, is matches evidence. The other one is clearly BS.
Yeah. And so there's that confusion that's thrown in there. The other confusion that's thrown in there is the confusion from the media at the time. So the media has now turned this into a little bit of a circus. So they've decided they want to make this a little bit of a Bonnie and Clyde story. They've decided they're going to take some of these little bits and pieces and they're going to run with it. So they're going to decide that they're going to take Carol Ann and put her involved in it. And they're going to take some of the little bits that you've already mentioned, like the story of the rich man and his wife and the maid in that particular incident. And she's stolen some of the more valuable stuff and she's trying it on, and she's taken some of those, I believe it was like jewels and some clothing and stuff like that. And she's taking that stuff and now she's living a luxurious life off of them.
Right.
And she's committed some of these heinous acts as well. And she's kind of, what's the word I want to use here, Jeff? She's kind of, I don't want to say she's enjoying it, but she's really the mastermind behind some of this stuff as well.
Yeah, in many ways, that's kind of two different views that they did. Is like there's one version that's sort of she's living a luxurious life off of Charlie's actions, and then there's another version where no, she is the mastermind and she's telling him what to do, and it's amazing how many people still buy into that or still trying to give the narrative that she was the mastermind that who was so brilliant and thought through these things. And I'm just like, what brilliance. The whole thing was so chaotic and was so nuts. And in the end, they got caught because she jumped out. And when people, there's a whole issue also of why didn't she escape when she actually did at the end, she ran. Now that's a whole topic in itself because that's the main thing. But you bring up a good point about wearing, because the one time when there is questionable, choices that she made. And this, to me, this is really where most of the more interesting aspects of it come in. Because like at the Ward home, that was the wealthy couple, at the Ward home, there's like one time when she saw the husband coming home and called out to Charlie. She did grab the jacket. She did wear that out of it and all this thing. So, and there were a couple times when she was out of his sight, when she could have escaped. So those are the times when, when people point those out that I'm like, that makes sense. That is, when you look at all the evidence, it becomes very, very clear that she was not there willingly with him, but there were technically times when she could have escaped. There were technically times when she did something that's kind of inappropriate. Mm-hmm. And to me, that really brings up what is more important about this story for us today. Because as far as, whether she's guilty or whether, she meant to be there or not, again, very, very clear that she didn't mean to be, or that she didn't want to be there with him, but she did act inappropriately at certain points. She didn't escape at some points when she could have. But you also look at like Mrs. Ward herself. There was a period of time when she was away from them for a very long period of time. She was upstairs while they were downstairs. There was a working telephone. There were large windows. She could have escaped from so many of them, but she didn't. Does that mean she was helping him? Of course not. But but then it comes down to, well, if we're going to say somebody's guilty by the fact that they didn't try to escape, well, that's, then you got to, you got to consider that with her as well. And because she's an adult, she's a 40-year-old adult as opposed to a 14-year-old child. But anyway, it does bring up these issues, though, that I think are important for us to question of what is the nature of guilt? What do we consider? To me, Caril is not so much a question of was Caril guilty or innocent, or was she guilty or innocent, but more of an issue of what do we consider to be guilt? Do we say, well, a person could have done something, so therefore they were assisting by the lack of action? Do we say, the person could have escaped, et cetera? And and it is certainly a legitimate belief to say this person could have done something but didn't, so let's call them guilty for that. But then you have to account that for everything. You can't, you have to put that across the board for everybody. You can't just say this one person is guilty, but then, well, if it was my child, it's just a kid not knowing what to do. Yeah. It's like, no, it's got to be attributed for everybody. And the law has to be fair across the board for everyone.
Well, not only that, Jeff, but in 1958, we had never heard of Stockholm Syndrome.
Right.
We had never gotten into the psychological ramifications of trauma and what trauma did to victims at that point, or people who had been taken hostage. We had never gotten into or considered, we really didn't take trauma seriously. Trauma was never or psychological trauma was never considered when it came to aspects of the law like that. It was black or white. You were either innocent or guilty, and that was it. Yeah. And to ask questions like, why didn't you just walk away? Why didn't you just get away when you could have? Was very black or white. You had an opportunity, you see it, you go. The fact that you could have been frozen in fear was an unreal aspect. You don't get frozen in fear. There's an opening, you go. I mean, that was the realistic expectation. Why would you be frozen in fear? You have an opening. This guy's over here. The minute he goes away, he disappears out of your mind, right? I mean, that should just be reality. But that's not how it works.
Right. Well, in fact, the lawyer who took up her case she recently went for a pardon, and it wasn't that one. In that case, it wasn't my father who took over the appeals process, but he didn't go for that. Partly because the reason my father didn't go for a pardon later on was just simply by the fact we knew that Nebraska would never just give her a pardon. But this other attorney had gotten involved because he had worked with Vietnam veterans involved in what do you call it?
PTSD.
Post-traumatic stress, PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, or disorder. Anyway, and what he saw in Caril was he recognized that as being the same thing as what a lot of his clients had been through. He saw, in particular, I said earlier about her looking guilty. Well, what the jurors were saying was she would get she was put on the witness stand and she came across very cold. She just, every time she'd be asked questions, she would talk very stone-faced. It's the first time that that a person being suspected was on national television. There was actually an interview with her on national TV, and she spoke very stone-faced and all that sort of thing. And what this other attorney, Steve Berry, recognized was PTSD. He's like, I've seen that in my clients, and that's very much what happens. And it's the thing is, in any soldier will tell you they don't have to have the guns and pointed at you and shooting at you for you to be afraid. Just you get the threat, and that puts you under their control in many cases. I mean, some people can break it, but most people, you think you're going to be the big brave guy and you're going to stand up, and then it happens, and it's a very different story.
Well, and in that, to add to his case, she was preconditioned. I mean, she had dated the man and knew what to expect. She knew he was a threat before they even started this, and she knew what to. And as the violence is escalating, she knows that it's getting more dangerous, and he's becoming more unstable and more unstable. And the only thing she can expect is that things are going to get worse, not better. So right. In her mind, the trauma is building. It's not de-escalating. There's nothing de-escalating. So all she can expect is that things are going to get worse, not better. So, of course, that cage, that mental cage, is fortifying. It's not breaking down. She's getting more and more trapped.
Right. So exactly. Go ahead.
No, so I just can't imagine that. I mean, to us, this makes sense in 2023. Right. But in 1958, this doesn't make any sense.
And that is one of the ultimate problems of the time. Even Charlie's own mental illness would be so much more understood today. Mm-hmm. I mean, he himself, he was later, tested psychologically and came out as being really straight up mentally ill. Mm-hmm. He had a blow to the head on top of being defined as like his IQ was so low as to be almost non-functional. And that's before the blow to the head. And then you have that. And then you have the fact that he had bright red hair, was bow-legged, pigeon-toed, all of these issues. He was mercilessly mocked. And today we understand, no, you don't treat, you don't let people bully each other. But even in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up, there was still, we teachers, the staff typically allowed children to bully each other. Nowadays, there's so much more understanding of how much this is going to screw you up. Yeah. But back then, so nobody really interfered there. And then when she came out, nobody was in any way even trying to understand. That's one of the things that I've always admired about my grandfather was the fact that he recognized that, and the fact that he's straight up. If you ever talk to him, I talk about how it's it's how you define guilt. He's straight up, no, she's innocent. You don't you need to understand the mental way the what's going on in the head. The psychology of it all when you're under that much duress, especially if you're a child. And, like you say, they had been involved even without her seeing like how dangerous he could be. Literally just the involvement with somebody is going to change things a bit for you. Yeah. As a 14-year-old, it was her very, very first boyfriend. So talk about, how bad that was. And then on top of that, you have the fact that she saw how dangerous he could be. I'm kind of pausing because I'm remembering something my cousin said that was he's kind of continued on the MacArthur lawyer tradition in Lincoln, but he said there's a fine line between. There's a fine line between a murder spree and a date gone horribly wrong, which was it's a very kind of inappropriate way of saying it, but it's like, you got something there. It's
macabre humor, but it's funny. I mean,
exactly.
and that probably should be in the Nebraska dating handbook, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. It should be like the first entry.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, or actually, he might have put it more clever. Was it even what is you even said it, the something syndrome where you're kidnapped.
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome, that was it. He said there's a fine line between Stockholm syndrome and a date gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, there you go. That probably should be in the Nebraska dating handbook. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Psychology plays a much bigger part and everybody thinks Monday morning quarterbacks. I would do this, there's a school shooting. Well, I would have done this. Well, I would have done that. It's like, until you're there, you just don't know.
That's true. I tell you what, Jeff, at this point, let's take our break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about what your family faced when it came time to get to trial with Caril Ann, because it wasn't all wine and roses when it came to bring Caril Ann to trial. In fact, the people of Nebraska weren't exactly friendly.
Definitely not.
And welcoming of your family when it came to actually taking Caril Ann's case. We'll talk a little bit about what your family faced. Let's talk a little bit about your relatives and how they dealt with it as well, and how the law and your family have kind of become married. You've mentioned a little bit about how your family has taken up the law and how it's passed on from generation to generation. We'll talk a little bit about how it's been passed on from generation to generation. Our guest is Jeff McArthur. He's the author of Pro Bono, the 18-year defense of Caril Fugate. We have a link to it in the description of this program. Go ahead and get that book in the break here. And when we come back, we'll talk more about what it was like for his family when they went to defend Caril Fugate. We'll talk more about it next on the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Our guest is author Jeff McArthur. He's got this brand new book out there, Pro Bono, the 18-year defense of Caril Fugate, which details the journey of his grandfather, attorney John McArthur, in defending 14-year-old Caril Fugate, who was I think it's safe to say, was the victim of Charles Starkweather, who was the serial killer in Nebraska in 1958, who went on his killing spree and was the subject of Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska album. Was I guess you could say, I don't want to say inspiration for Stephen King to start his career, but that's one way
you really was.
He was, yeah.
In a dark way. I mean, I know you don't want to use the word inspiration is oftentimes used in a positive way, but inspiration actually can be a negative thing as well. And positive if you really like his writing and stuff. But it's just it was. He talks about having been scared at the time when it happened. He remembers hearing about it and he had sort of some trauma from it in that because part of what made it so scary actually was his attack of the ward home, because he literally just went into this home that was considered safe. In the 50s, there was this whole belief that, well, we're invincible and there was this veneer of safety that nobody can really break, as long as you're part of, on the right side of town, nobody can get you or nothing can get you. You're untouchable kind of thing. And Charlie really broke that facade. And it was a facade because obviously there was still crime in that time, but there was so much of a propaganda behavior in the media that people had this belief that, we are invincible, especially if you're the white middle class or upper class or whatever. And so Charlie proved that wrong, and it really shattered that belief and that feeling. And so Stephen King has talked about growing up and having this fear that Charlie Starkweather is entering his window and coming to get him. He kind of became the boogeyman.
He is the boogeyman. Yeah, and it's a good cross reference to the movie that's out right now, The Boogeyman, and also if you think about it, the lead character in The Shining, when he turns eventually at the end of the book and the book, and then if everyone's seen the movie with Jack Nicholson, they can kind of I think Jack Nicholson may have taken some you could say inspiration from Charles Starkweather. It's kind of that mad, gone over the edge type inspiration, but it's very much that flipped over the edge, will do anything type deal.
Yeah, there's direct references actually to Starkweather in Stephen King's books. I forget. I've heard them several times, and I keep forgetting what they are. But he's had direct references several times, and then of course it wound up in several movies. I mean, one of the things about Starkweather as well was he was almost a dead ringer for James Dean. I used to see when I was a kid, I would see photographs of James Dean, and because they were black and white, I thought it was Charlie Starkweather because I was growing up around this case, and that was, I mean, that's how much he looked like him. And so, yeah, it wound up he wound up influencing a lot of these various different movies and books and, all that sort of thing. And, they were all just inspirations. There was only, one movie and now one documentary that actually tried to get at the truth. The movie being what's called the Murder in the Heartland. It was a TV movie, and the documentary being The 12th Victim. But aside from that, everything has been made is really just more of an it was inspired by. It was like they took the idea and made it, and then you had responsible people like Terrence Malick who made it clear this is only inspired by it. It's not the true story. Don't take it as being the true story. And then very irresponsible reactions like Oliver Stone with Natural Born Killers going, yeah, this is from the true story of, and it's like, no, it's not even close.
Yeah. There's one picture in the book you have, which actually it does look, Starkweather looks a lot like James Dean. I think he's lighting a cigarette and he's got the hair swept back and you're like, wow. And, and you do point out he looks a lot like James Dean in the book. And then when you see the picture of him lighting the cigarette, you go, oh, wow, yeah, because there's certain photos you look at him and you go, oh, well, I don't really see it. But then when you see that picture, you go, oh, man, yeah, that's for sure. He does look like James Dean. That's for sure. Sure. I want to put the focus back on your grandfather here again. We had talked earlier in the program about his dedication to law and the fact that he was very dedicated. I know that played a toll on your grandmother. You put that in the book, that it paid a real toll on her, but she was steadfast and she was dedicated to your grandfather and to his love of law in being steadfast to it. This case ended up affecting more than just your grandmother. It ended up affecting the other members of the family as well. Some positive, some negative. You want to explain what I mean by that?
Yeah, and there might be something specific, so feel free to jump in if I'm forgetting, because unfortunately, sometimes when you write a book so many years later, you forget. But in general, with the family, it had huge effects on them. I mean, for one thing, first of all, before my grandfather even got home, somebody called the house and gave a death threat and said, there's a necktie waiting for your father in Bennett when we catch him or something like that, and they hung up. And I think it was my father who actually answered the phone that time, but there was different members of the family, even their youngest, which was, I think he was maybe 4 or something like that at the time, that he got he heard a death threat is, my Aunt Linda, who was very, still like, I think 12 or something like that, picked up the phone one time and somebody was threatening to kill him. So a lot of the people in Nebraska, because the press had just come out with something along the lines of the new Bonnie and Clyde and all that, without hearing her side, without hearing all the various different elements of it, they just simply ran with, well, she was helping to kill him. And that's what the Nebraska public went with. And they immediately just went to the side of, you're trying to defend a murderer, and not even considering the fact that, well, even if she was, everybody deserves the right to an attorney. So when my grandfather got home after getting being appointed to it, he literally just took the phone off the hook and went and sat down in the living room and just didn't want to deal with it. But they got letters that were death threats. They got, all kinds of people just saying, how much they hated him and how terrible it was. And when she was, found guilty, there was very much of a, well, good now. And I remember there being one letter to the editor in one of the newspapers that said, the sooner we can forget the name, throw her in the, in the prison and throw away the key, or put her in prison and throw away the key. And the sooner we can forget the name Fugate and the name MacArthur, the better. And very much of dismissive, we're not even going to think about what the other implications might be, the questions, etc. Well, then over the years, as my grandfather continued to keep the case going, the press every now and then would bring it up, and especially letters to the editor, because that's what you got back then rather than tweets.
Right.
People,
Yes.
People writing in just saying how upset they were that, he's just keeping this thing going. He's, why can't he just let it drop and die and forget about it and just leave her in prison, etc. And so, but he wouldn't let it drop. He continued to keep going. And then eventually when she was never found guilty. She never got a new trial. She never got an appeal, unfortunately, but they did finally set her sentence to a certain period of time. So then she was eligible for parole, and she had been a model prisoner in 18 years. She literally never had a single, disciplinary action, which was unheard of. I'm like the only person in Nebraska history up to that point. So then she was released, but then movies started coming out about this. And the first one, I forget what it was called, but it was so horrible. It was a black and white movie made in the 60s. And but of course that portrayed her as being his partner. People just so badly wanted to believe this. Mm-hmm. Terrence Malick came along, and he actually went and visited with Caril. And he wanted her permission to, even though it was just going to be inspired by it. He was like, well, I really want to do this, more just as inspiration for something else. He went and did his film and made it clear to movie theaters, look, this is just inspired by it. Don't advertise it as a true story. But then other movies would come out and other books and then documentaries as well that would just portray her as being this, awful person. Yeah. And so then it brought back for a whole new generation. To kind of bring back to what your question is, I didn't mean to drift from it.
No, that's fine.
That's all important to show why it stayed in the consciousness. And by the time I got into high school, there were people still talking about it. And like I remember one time, one of the inspirations that made me want to write this book years later was, I remember in one of my classes, we were supposed to think of a subject to write a paper on, and one of the girls in it was like, I'm going to write about that whore Caril Fugate and the terrible things that she did. And actually, one thing I skipped over was while Caril was still in prison, she was such a model prisoner that she actually became the gate girl. They actually gave her a key to the front. She would let people in and out of the prison. So she had the key to her own escape all along, but she knew that, she wanted to be found not guilty. So she was the person let in and out. She was the one person who would give tours, and they would even let her have some weekends to go out. Like she actually went out to, when Badlands was first going to be released, she was allowed to go to the theater and watch it actually with Terry and with Martin and my family.
Oh my God.
So there was one weekend where they allowed her to go into, actually there were a few different times when they would allow her to go supervised by my grandfather and then my father as well, because my father became her attorney during this process. He actually really handled a lot of the appeals process, particularly near the end. She would go and, stay with us and, and every now and then, and especially near the time when we knew she was going to be getting her pardon, she was allowed out for not her pardon, but her, release, parole. She came for this one particular weekend, and this was a story that my mom especially tells over and over again, where my father had partial ownership of an apartment complex, and there was a swimming pool there, and we all went swimming there. And when they brought her back, the warden was like, "What did you guys do?" And I don't know. And there was she said there's been this huge hubbub about, Caril Fugate's on the loose and, people being scared and, really complaining and blah, blah, blah. Turns out somebody had just spotted her swimming, and, they're just like, this evil murderess is out there and, all that sort of thing. And so from that and then on, she was not allowed to go anywhere. But, basically this really then continued to just sort of haunt the family in terms of people always wanting to say, most of the time I didn't hear anything about it, because most of the time I think a lot of people didn't talk about it, they would talk about the case, but especially by the time I became a teenager, people didn't even know, that I was connected with or whatever. Yeah. My grandmother as well, she was, I forget some specific examples, but she never questioned him. She always supported what he was doing. That was the reason she loved my grandfather, was because he stood by his beliefs. But she did put up with people sending letters and people calling, and stuff. But she was a Red Cross volunteer. And so she would actually go to disaster zones. She was one of these people who's kind of a tough cookie. And so when people would come to her about it, she just, is F off, she didn't actually say that sort of thing. Right. She was a very religious woman, but in the godly sort of way would tell them to F off. She just kind of, it's funny because I when I was writing the book, I expected it to be dramatic moments. And it was more just like somebody, it was more like handled like a hassle. Oh my God. Yeah. These people sent some death threats and they were threatening to drag him out there and hang him. And then and then talk about what they had for dinner. And I'm just like, wait, you just described something really horrific. It's like, yeah, that was a hassle. Even my uncles and aunts who were kids at the time. I mean, my aunt, I remember her talking about it being like, that was really scary. But then she just kind of changes the subject. And it's just like, yeah, so yeah, we would get this for years and years. But first, most of the time, people just didn't remember, didn't associate it with us. But then when they did, it would just be like, you just, he defended a evil, guilty woman. And then they, move on or whatever.
I got to wonder, Jeff, you say your father got into the family business, the law. When you're a kid and you stare down death threats and you see what it is your father or your father's father, your father seeing his father getting into a case like this and dealing with something that's so world renowned as this case. And seeing the negative effect it has on the family, and seeing that you're basically in terror that an entire town, everything is against you, and kids in school are talking about it. Your entire world the entire apple cart is shook because you're talking about one case that your dad is working on. One thing he's doing at work has upset your entire world. What fires you up to want to do it? I mean, that's. Why would you want to invite that potential trouble and trauma into your world? What is it? What has your dad ever sat down and told you, well, son, this is why I decided I wanted to get into it too?
Well, he has talked about, it's funny. He never really talked about it in that kind of a way. He's never really, brought up the fact that, he talked about the fear of death threats and stuff like that. And then he's talked about his inspiration being into law, but we've never really talked about this aspect of possibly bringing the fear onto his own life. And I think part of the reason I never really thought that's a good question because of the fact that it's just something's never come up. He never thought to tell me, and I don't think I ever thought to ask. But I think part of the reason I never thought to ask is because knowing when it happened, my dad was 16, and a lot of times if we have if we want to look at something from being inspired by bravery or something like that, it's oftentimes when we're 16, when we're kind of fearless or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that was the thing, is I think he saw it as I think that more inspired my father. I think part of the reason why he became interested in law was because he saw his father standing up to something. I mean, this is literally what To Kill a Mockingbird is about. It's Atticus Finch. The entire town is against them, but he's like, no, this is right. I don't care if everybody else, is against this. And they had always also admired my father's grandfather, so my great grandfather. There was one time where a black man came to him injured and hurt, and the Ku Klux Klan came to him, and it was small town doctor, middle of nowhere, and he single-handedly stood up to the whole lot of them. And that was one of those legends that we always, remembered and stuff like that, and always were proud of. And so I think there was sort of the sense of they're doing it again. Or, my father's doing the same thing my grandfather did. I'm very proud of him for that. And I think that was part of the inspiration to my dad was like, look, the law isn't just this, dull, boring thing of filling out paper, divorce papers and stuff.
Yeah.
Because that was actually what my grandfather had done mostly was divorces. But when he saw him standing up to the entire state and saying, no, this is wrong, I think that inspired my dad to go into law. He was actually just right about Caril's age. I think he was 15, like maybe 1 year older. When he saw his dad doing this, he decided, I want to go into the law. And he went through high school and studied a lot of history, then college, and then law school, and then joined, like literally right out of law school, joined his father as a partner in his firm.
Was that a source of pride for your grandfather, or did he have a little bit of trepidation with that?
Well, it's interesting. I wish I could ask my grandfather so many things. Of course, I was so young that I didn't appreciate. I really kicked myself. I mean, I think a lot of us do when we're kids. We don't appreciate our parents and grandparents as much as when we grow to be adults. And my grandfather died when I was a teenager, so I didn't really get to ask him a lot of things. But it'd be hard to even have gotten it from him because he was a very stone-faced. I don't want to say cold. He wasn't cold, but he was reserved. He kept everything close to the chest, and he didn't really let out a lot of how he felt about things. Mm-hmm. So my guess is he would have said, "Well, yeah, I was proud." That probably would have been how he would have put it. But it was interesting because it was a real coming together of the two. Because my father he wasn't as great with English. It's not that he couldn't speak English, but it wasn't his. Speaking was not his best trait. Neither is it of mine, you can tell. But he wasn't as good of a public speaker as my grandfather was. But when he saw him doing all this, it really inspired that this is what he kind of wanted to do, and he went more into what his father was into. And then as a result, the two of them started becoming closer and closer as my dad got into law school and then, of course, into being a lawyer. Obviously, it became close. They started working together. Yep. So close to the point where not only did they work 5 days a week, but every Friday night growing up, our family would go and spend Friday evening with his parents. He would sit there and talk with them more. Even though he had been spending the entire week with them, working in the law office with them, he would still go for a visit on Friday nights, and the two of them would just talk all the time. Oh, wow. So, wow. Yeah, it really brought them together.
That's really neat. That is really neat. I tell you, Jeff, we're coming up to the end of the program here. But again, I encourage people to go out and get this book. I really did enjoy this book, Pro Bono, the 18-year defense of Caril Fugate. And I want to leave some meat on the table here for people to read this book because it is really an incredible story. And it's one of those stories that I think we want people to hang on and find out some of these aspects at the end of the book because it's one of those things you gotta read for yourself. I want you to let our audience know what it is that you're hoping that they pull from this book and the lessons of the MacArthur family. What is it that you're hoping people pull from this?
Well, I feel, because people have asked me, do I think she's innocent or guilty or that sort of thing. Of course, my grandfather and father's responses have always been, innocent and all that. But to me, it is less of a important as to whether, I'd love to see Caril get justice. I'd love to see her get pardoned. But ultimately, this is one of those things that's gone on, it's so far in the past. And it's almost more of a matter of trivia for so many of us today. But as I was saying earlier, I really feel that this brings up the question of guilt. And I think that the relevance of this story is not just a serial killer went out and killed a bunch of people. You can compare it to other serial killers and it's like the others, there are ones that are more fascinating. And there are people who have been even more unjust, given more injustice than Caril. I just saw yesterday a story about a woman who was falsely in prison for 20 years. So she was in there longer than Caril, so other people have had worse injustices than her. But what is relevant about this and what has kept this around for so long is because it brings up the issue of what is guilt and how, how do we attribute it? Yeah. And that's what I want people to walk away with. It's not even necessarily my opinion, but rather to bring up the question and where do you see that line? And how do we attribute it to children? And also how we handle things in the media and pop culture, because this has become so much of an issue. That's one of the reasons this has stayed around for so long, because pop culture has played around with it. And I think people really need to recognize that this was the subject of the documentary that just came out, The 12th Victim, where it really brought out all of the other bits of media throughout the years. And, it's sort of a reminder to all of us that when it's a true story, this isn't just your playground to play around with. It's real, and there are real people affected by it, by not only Caril, but like the victims as well, and their families and descendants and all of that. So, is The 12th Victim the one that's available on Showtime right now? Yes. Okay. It's on Showtime. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the 12th Victim's available on Showtime. If you have Showtime, you can see that right now. You can check that on Showtime. One last question for you before we leave people today. One of the things that's brought up
in the book, and I wonder, and it's brought up quite a bit, and I wonder if it would have changed in this day and time. And I want to ask your opinion on this. At the time Caril Ann is charged, she's 14 years old. She's charged as an adult. Yeah. And we kind of skirt around it a little bit in the book. I want to ask you here, do you feel that in this day and age, if Starkweather does what he does, do you feel she's charged as an adult, or is she charged as a child, as a juvenile?
There are more rules now that would force their hand to have to charge her as a child, but that still could possibly happen. I think today, absolutely, it would be more of as a child. In fact, quite frankly, I think a lawyer would have been involved now, like from the beginning, and a lawyer would not have allowed that to get as far as it did. I mean, this was actually before there's a lot of rights we appreciate today and we take for granted. For one thing, the Miranda rights. We all know about that. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. We think of it as, just something they say on TV, but it's an actual important right. They have a commercial on right now here in California where it says the lawyer comes on and says, you have the right to shut the F up. And he says it doesn't make you look guilty. It makes you look smart. And that's part of the commercial. And that's part of what the Miranda rights is like, you are going to incriminate yourself. So shut the F up. And because they're trying to get information from you, because oftentimes prosecuting attorneys, they get reelected by the number of successful charges charges that they brought, but people they've imprisoned. Yeah, and it isn't even questioned were they guilty or not. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes they will just go after their numbers. And so they're trying to get information from the one that they're charging to then portray it in a out of context and in not a favorable light. Mm-hmm. So the most important thing you can do is get an attorney. Yep. And that's something that now throughout the 60s, you got all of these laws that were passed that now we take for granted, but didn't exist in the 50s. You did not have the guaranteed right to a fair trial as you do today. So yeah, it would never have even gotten to this phase. Yeah, frankly. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, the book is Pro Bono, the 18-year defense of Caril Ann Fugate. We have a link to it in the description of this program. The movie, the documentary, is The 12th Victim, which is available on Showtime. So if you have Showtime, by all means, check out the documentary as well. Jeff MacArthur, I want to thank you so much for being on the program today. Thank you for having me. It's been an honor. It's been our pleasure, sir. It's time now for us to bring in Beer City Bruiser. We're going to lighten it up a little bit. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time once again, the time y'all look forward to here on True Crime Tuesday. It's time for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. And for that, we need a co-host. We bring in the co-host with the most, the BCB, the Big Cuddly Bear, Beer City Bruiser. How you doing, Bruiser?
I'm doing fantastic, Cruiser. I'm actually in a really good mood today.
Well, that's good. That's good. I have to bring up a couple of things here.
Okay.
Before we start the show. One, I was incredibly disappointed by one thing. What was it, a week or two ago on your social media, you put up a meme that said it was something having to do with wrestling and how would you remember me by in the wrestling arena? And a few of our listeners popped on and said they would remember you in the wrestling arena as the BCB, the Big Cuddly Bear. No, people. In the wrestling arena.
No, they're actually right. I actually have a tattoo of two bears on my calf, and it says BCB because it's Big Cuddly Bear. And that's been my nickname for a while because Brian Malonis and I, we learned the hard way that in the gay community,
yes,
you have what are called bears and cubs, and we didn't know this, so we embraced it. When somebody says you guys are a bunch of bears, we're like, oh, thank you. Because we're thinking ferocious grizzly bears.
Yeah,
Yeah. In fact, one guy messaged us both and says, "Hey, you guys, since you're both bears, you guys should do a bear hug in your match." And we're like, "We should." And we could do like a double bear hug and it'd be great. And this guy's got some, right? And then he messaged us back and he said, "How much would it cost for you guys to be in my hotel room to bear hug me?" And it was like, what?
Got to give the people what they want.
And then Mrs. Bruiser decided to sit us both down and educate us.
Smarten you up. Yep.
So, big cuddly bear in wrestling is a known thing. So, if you go back to Ring of Honor TV, there's about a month long of TV episodes where Ian Riccaboni is joking about bears and cubs. He'd throw little stuff at it because he's ingrained in that community.
Okay.
And we're just allies of the community. We don't know a lot about it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say ignorant to it, but we were. And he thought that was hilarious because he went along. He thought we were joking with him. We were explaiing all this stuff to him. He thought, also, these guys are just ribbing with me,
Yeah.
Nope, Ian, we didn't know. It was I remember that was a 7-day long tour. And then after the tour, I got home and I was telling Mrs. Bruiser what's going on. She's laughing and she was, you don't know, do you? I said, no, what?
That's a good story.
Yeah, it is. It is.
On top of that, we might as well just get it all out there. I scissored me some daddy ass this weekend, so we'll go from a big cuddly bear to scissoring some daddy ass. I get to meet Billy Gunn, so yeah, that's cool.
The ass man himself.
The ass man himself. So,
did it throw you off at how tall he really is?
Yes, he's huge.
He's 6'5". He doesn't look it, but when you're next to him,
yeah.
He's as big as Hulk Hogan. Have you ever seen Hulk Hogan? Hulk Hogan is deceptively big.
Yeah.
And Billy was that way too, because I wrestled Billy, and I remember going out and whoa, because I'm 6'2", I'm pretty tall myself, and he towered over me. I was like, whoa,
he's a mountain of a man. He is a big man. He
is.
Yeah, and huge hands. Huge.
How is his scissoring techniques? Good.
He's gentle. He's a gentle scissorer. He understands that it's your first time, and he walks you through it lovingly. So
he's into that daddy ass. Huh?
Yes, thank you, daddy ass, for being gentle with me on my first scissoring experience. I appreciate that. So yeah,
I got to see George South scissor the Acclaimed, and I thought that was amazing because he had no idea what it was.
Yeah, you didn't know what the whole scissoring deal was? No.
He's like, why is everybody talking about this? And then he went out in the ring and he did it, and the crowd just went ape shit. And he's like, why are they all excited? We're just doing this with our fingers. So somebody had to sit down with George
and explain it.
And explain to George
and smarten him up. Yep.
60-year-old George South.
Scissor me south.
And there's a T-shirt out there that says that. I'll have to pick it up for you.
Oh my gosh, I would love that.
With a picture of him doing it, and
that is amazing. That's crazy. That is crazy. It's
great when people don't see, and that's why it's fun when people of different cultures or different styles, lifestyles, take the time to educate instead of right away attack. Because like with Brian and I, they could have attacked us because we didn't know what bears and cubs were, but no, instead we got educated on it, and everybody had a good time with it. With the Scissor Me Daddy, you know what I mean? Like your friend, you said you had that conversation. It was a friendly, it was educational.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because now I know what bears and cubs are. So now I understand when I go into a hot tub and a man asks me, why I have bears on my leg, and I start explaining to him, and he's like, oh, well, at a local club over here, we have the Bears and Cubs party. And I realized, I'm not going to go to that. I'm a happily married man.
Wow, we've revealed so much in the first part of Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. We have big show today, by the way, folks. Big show. We're going to tell you why Minnesota's hardcore in today's show. We're hardcore with a guy who looks like like you bought Tommy Dreamer on Wish.
Oh, okay.
Yep. We've got that. That's our first story, by the way, today. We're going to talk about a woman who was convicted this past week of doing some really, really obnoxious shit on a plane.
Don't do that on a plane, everybody.
No, I mean, no. She didn't literally, but yeah, she's just doing some obnoxious stuff on a plane. A man robs a phone repair store with a box on his head, but then he busts himself. We'll tell you how. That's right. The disguise was a box on his head.
That ranks up there with the guy putting a plastic bag over his head to rob the bank, and then he passed out because he couldn't breathe.
Yeah, that was a good one. Sonic, it ain't just for fueling up anymore. We'll tell you how fast you run after getting a little something to eat at Sonic. It's quite fast. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you what that deal is. A lot of food stuff today. We've got some food stuff that we'll be talking about. And, of course, your Not Safe for Work section at the end of the program. Boy, oh, boy, right. The words Oakenfap will come out today at the end of the program. And we'll explain what that means as well. Let's start first in Minnesota, Bruiser. We're hardcore. We're hardcore. This is the first time I think I've ever heard of in Minnesota us keeping a barbed wire bat around for protection.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We went at it ECW style, I guess.
Yeah.
This happening right at the end of May, and on May 31st, after his Minnesota home was burglarized last month, Blaze Smith, who's got a hardcore name.
I was just saying that's a worker name if I ever heard it.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Anticipated that his intruder would return. Believe it or not, he was burglarized, and the intruder and homeowner both face multiple felonies now because of it. Here's what happened. So he anticipated that his intruder would return. So here's what he did, Bruiser. He left his window open and sat and wait. Okay? And he was...
I picture a scene from like most crime things where the person preps the apartment or the house with traps, leaves the door open, and then sits down in a chair with the light off with a weapon in their hand.
That's exactly what he did. And he was armed with a baseball bat that was wrapped in barbed wire and studded with screws and nails.
Good for him.
Yep. So my man Blaze was all ready. The day after the April 15th break-in, cops charged that 35-year-old Aldo Gomez returned to Smith's residence at the Eastwood Manor Mobile Home Park in Mankato.
What's in a mobile home park that you have to return twice?
I don't know, but evidently he had some good stuff in his trailer. I know that.
Like, did he forget the wheels or something?
Yes, he forgot the blocks. He took everything but the blocks. So he returned to Smith's residence there in Mankato and climbed through the same window he had illegally entered the day before. He's a creature of habit.
Yes.
But when Gomez got inside the home at around 9 p.m., he's an early robber, he was confronted by the 28-year-old Smith. Gomez fled the residence with Smith in pursuit. That's right. He stepped outside the home to give him some swift justice.
Castle law does not go into effect outside the house.
No. Outside,
or off your property.
That's right. Outside the mobile home, surveillance video captured Smith chasing and repeatedly hitting Gomez on the back of his head with that baseball bat.
Oh, I've been hit with a barbed wire baseball bat. That doesn't feel good.
No. A police commander noted that the bat was wrapped in barbed wire and had screws and nails in it. The blows left Gomez with a fractured skull.
Ooh, it's a bad injury.
Yeah, it is. But
again, what are you doing going back the next day?
Yeah.
Like, future robbers out there, if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. If you show up to a residence and the window's wide open with a big neon sign saying, "Rob me," chances are you don't want to go in there because there's a guy in there with a barbed wire baseball bat.
That's right. You want to back off. When cops arrived at Smith's residence in response to a burglary and in progress 911 call, Gomez was sitting in the front yard bleeding. Gomez, who lives a block from Smith at the mobile home park, it was a short run, Bruiser. It was a short run, was subsequently taken by ambulance to a hospital while being treated. He reportedly admitted to burglarizing Smith's home on April 15th and returning the next day to take more items. God, how stupid.
I left the PlayStation there. I had to go back and get it.
Gomez was arrested on a pair of felony burglary counts, one of which carries a maximum 20-year prison term. When questioned about the violent confrontation, Smith told police that after he reviewed his security camera footage following the initial break-in, he knew it was Gomez from his build and the way he walks. Okay.
Well, you've seen him around the park enough.
I guess. Smith, cops noted, knows Gomez from prior interactions. But instead of contacting police, Smith, with bat in hand, waited for his neighbor to return. While surveillance video recorded Smith clobbering Gomez after he left the residence, Smith reportedly told cops that he only hit Gomez while the burglar was inside his home. Smith claimed that he struck Gomez with the bat only 4 times.
Oh, that's it.
But they were good cracks, let me tell you. Yeah.
And that surveillance video's lying. That wasn't him.
Right. Smith was charged last week with the pair of felony assault with a dangerous weapon counts. The top charge carries a maximum of 10 years in prison.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
For protecting your own stuff.
Yep. In a Facebook post last year, Smith tipped his followers to a recent theft at the mobile home park. Smith uploaded surveillance video of a man who stole my neighbor's lawnmower. Wow.
I didn't know they have yards in mobile home park.
They do. They're very small, though. Yeah.
So 1 or 2 passes and you're good.
Yeah. Push mower. You don't need the riding mower. That's just way too much fun.
So it was a slightly used lawnmower.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, very slightly used. The thief, he noted, walks with a very distinct hobble. Very distinct hobble. It's really a hobble now that he's been hit with that bat.
Yeah, now it's a crawl.
Yeah. Yikes. Barbed wire bat with screws and nails.
See, that's why I don't rob places. I have a distinct walk. And I know some of you, that's Bruiser.
That's Bruiser.
Yeah, it's known in the wrestling world. My Bruiser walk is what Kenny King used to call it.
The Bruiser walk?
Yeah, the way I walk easily. And they all the Ring of Honor guys, they have it down pat. But that all changes June 29th, let me tell you.
That's right. No more Squatch walk. No more Squatch walk. All right. It's time for us to go to California. This guy hasn't been arrested yet, but there's talk of charges. Okay. I'm going to show you this video, Bruiser, and you're going to look at me and go, what the actual F? This cat, here, let me show you this briefly here, Bruiser. I'm going to try and it skipped to a different video here, but let me show you a picture of what this guy's doing here, and you're going to be amazed. What do you see what that guy's doing?
Yeah, it looks like... Wait, okay. At first, I thought he was on the side of the road throwing something. No, he is standing on the driver's side window.
On his side mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like the car is driving because his shirt looks like it's flapping in the wind.
It is. He's balancing. Let me see if I can get back to the actual video here. I have to refresh the...
Someone's a fan of Fast and Furious.
Yeah, here we go. Here it is. Here's the video of the guy going down the street and balancing on the side mirror while doing tricks. It's an unusual video from California where the guy, and I'm going to post this in the description. I know I say this and then I'll forget, but he's balancing down the street.
And he's dancing, it looks like. Yeah, he's doing like a Jeff Hardy type dance.
He's doing dance moves on the side mirror. All he's got is this little itty-bitty side mirror. And I'll describe basically what he's doing. There's a shocking video that's emerged online of a man hazardously perched on the driver's side window of his car as it jets down a California freeway over the weekend. And
it's not a big car either. It looks like a little Nissan Altima or something. It's not a big car.
It's not even midsize.
No.
The risk-taking motorist was spotted pulling the treacherous stunt Sunday on the 91 freeway in Corona, California. This, according to KTLA. Video was provided to the news station by another motorist. It shows a man wearing a neon yellow T-shirt, dark pants, and a red bandana tied around his head, balancing on the ledge of the open window of a car. That's initially to get onto the outside. When he does so, the thrill seeker's entire body can be seen standing up straight outside of what appears to be a bluish-gray Nissan as it barrels down the California highway. The startling footage then shows the man opening his arms wide as the wind whips around his shirt. The man eventually crouches down as if he were about to get back inside the car, and then he glances back at the cars behind him, seeming to flash a smile at the driver filming the dangerous stunt. The car continues down the highway with the man sitting on the open window, his legs now on the inside of the car. It's unclear if there was anyone inside the car or how the car was maintaining its speed and steering as the man was performing his risky stunt. The speed that the car was driving down the freeway is also unknown. It looked like it was going at a good clip.
Yeah, and he could put cruise control on, and then his alignment could just be great.
Yeah,
where it stays on there.
Right.
The best way to describe the pose is if you think of Titanic, when Leonardo DiCaprio gets up to the front of the boat and does the "I'm a king of the world," that's the pose he's doing.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's incredible balance because at one point he gets out on the side mirror.
Yeah, and then that's what blows me away is he's standing on the side mirror.
Yeah.
How that didn't break, because those side mirrors are only held on by glue.
Right. There's no weight bearing to him whatsoever. But this guy is so skinny.
That's true too. Yeah, this guy's got no weight to him either.
Yeah, and how he doesn't blow off the thing.
Yeah, because his shirt is going.
Yeah,
like he's got to be going freeway speeds.
Yes. And at that point, police right now are trying to figure out what charges, if they can find the guy, what charges they come up with for him. Because, I mean, obviously, he's probably breaking about half dozen laws. Yeah,
because reckless driving's got to be right up there. Mm-hmm. Inattentive driving's got to be up there.
Yep.
Depending or not if he's drunk or sober.
Yep. I mean,
that could be there. He's putting the public in danger because there's obviously other cars there. Yep. Someone's filming him.
Public endangerment. Yep.
I mean, there's no crime for stupidity.
No.
Or it looks like he's a Fast and Furious fan. He's like, oh, if they can do that in the movies, I can do it.
Yeah. There's some sort of
movies, guys.
public endangerment, I'm sure, is there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on. We'll stay in California, I believe. Oh, no, this is going to Florida. We're going to Florida. I saw Hernando and I thought Florida, or California, but it's Florida. Okay. First Florida story of the day. And this one, Bruiser, of course, there's certain things. They say that we are our own undoing at times.
I agree with that.
We're going to start a string of stories where we're our own undoing. We'll put it that way. Stupid criminals that, of course, are their own undoing. This woman attempted to rob a bank before taking money out of her own account in Hernando, Florida. I don't get some people. I really don't.
I don't either. If you're robbing them, don't. Yeah, that's like the guy that we had I think it was last year, where he left his driver's license and birth certificate at the bank.
Yeah. This woman was even more confused, I guess. We go to Spring Hill, Florida, where the Hernando County Sheriff's Office said a woman attempted to rob a Wells Fargo bank in Spring Hill, Florida on Wednesday and made the investigation quite easy to solve. According to the Hernando Sheriff's Office, around 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday, a woman later identified as 31-year-old Vanessa Ortega came into the bank holding a bright blue object in her left hand that allegedly resembled a firearm. The sheriff's office said that Ortega then raised the object in the air and then yelled, "This is a robbery. Give me all your money." Okay, so far, legit robbery, right?
Yep, straight out of the movies.
Right. Ortega then allegedly went to the teller window, and she said she was only joking. Okay? Only joking.
I just wanted to get everyone's attention.
That's it. I just need my daily attention. She then withdrew cash from her own bank account and then left the bank.
Okay.
I think this is kind of like when you go to the airport and you go, hey, look, there's a bomb on the scanner. You can't joke like that.
No, there's certain things in certain places you don't joke.
That's right. When detectives arrived, bank staff said they could identify Ortega because she was a regular customer at the branch. It's probably a bad move.
She thought she's just having a fun, loving go at it with all of her bank friends. And all her bank friends are like, this bitch is trying to rob us.
That's right. We're not comfortable at all. Go get her. Detectives also identified Ortega because the HCSO said they had previous law enforcement contacts with her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so evidently it wasn't a joke. Ortega was arrested at a separate scene where deputies were called to a disturbance, so she was in the middle of some other trouble. Yeah.
She was probably doing something with her boyfriend where she was mad, started punching him, and then went, I'm just kidding. Don't call the police. It's not domestic violence. Come on.
It's a joke.
Just joking.
Yeah,
just joshing you.
We're joshing. The Hernando Sheriff's Office said Ortega told deputies she entered the bank with a Nerf-style gun and admitted to yelling, "This is a robbery. Give me all your money." Ortega allegedly told deputies she was just joking about the robbery. It's just a joke. It's just a Nerf gun.
I picture her driving home in her head going, well, I got to stop at the bank because I got to pick up cash because it's Junior's birthday and I got to get him something. Oh, look, he left his Nerf gun in the car. Oh, I bet Susie at the bank will get a good laugh out of this because clearly this is a Nerf gun.
They'll know.
They know me. I'm a regular.
That's right. They'll get a laugh out of it. Ortega was arrested, by the way, and faces 2 counts of attempted robbery with a weapon because a Nerf gun's a gun.
Yep.
And
fires projectiles.
That's right. And is given a $20,000 bond. So yes, it does cost to bring a Nerf gun into a bank.
It's a very expensive prank.
That's right. This one is interesting because he's once, twice, 3 times a hired hitman or hired a hitman and is now in jail again. Not only is he a shitty podiatrist, but he's a shitty guy when it comes to trying to hire a hit guy.
Yeah. You always hear about these murder for hire plots. Tim, off the top of your head,
yeah.
You know how to hire a hitman?
No, I have no clue. No clue.
So in my mind, I'm not even going to go attempt it because it's not going to end well.
No. I would probably end up hiring someone from the police department too.
Yeah, because it's not like you can go to Yelp or something and look at the Yelp reviews of hitmen.
Although that would be excellent, a Yelp for hitmen. Actually, there's an episode of Law and Order that aired this past season where they had like a dark website that you could hire a hit guy for, and it was like almost like a Yelp of hitmen, yeah. But it was weird because they would get their assignments and I'm trying to remember what they compared it to. It wasn't like a Yelp, but it was like I'm trying to remember. It wasn't like DoorDash, but it was something like that. It was like it was like an app type deal. It was very convenient. I applaud the ingenious thing that they did behind it because it was basically the hitman would take the job.
Yeah.
But it was all disguised, and you had to prove that you had killed your target with a selfie.
Okay.
And then you posted the selfie to the site, and then they paid the hitman through Bitcoin. And it was all untraceable, and I was like, ooh, this is so intriguing. I was like, wow, this is so high tech, and then they got reviews. So it was like, oh, everybody got reviews, and I was like, oh, this is so neat.
In Criminal Minds, the latest season Criminal Minds, something like that happens where a guy created an app for serial killers and would educate serial killers on how not to get caught. And he would activate serial killers at certain times so that they wouldn't get caught. And then if they got caught, they had to kill themselves and burn all their stuff. But it's a really interesting season. And you're like, what blows my mind about the story, the episode you're just talking about and the series that I'm talking about is that these writers sat down and thought this through. Like, this could be true.
Yeah.
This could happen.
Well, they always say, it pulled from true stories or pulled from or based on a true case or whatever. And you're like, well, but you put your own spin on it, right? Or are you literally lifting this from a true story?
Can you imagine the research? Somebody had to go on the dark web to look that up.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to get on the dark web. That's something you can't just look up.
Yeah. I don't either. But, But if anybody wants to show me, Tim at darknessradio.com. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. This story is about a podiatrist who already went to prison for trying to have his wife murdered with help from his lover and is again indicted. Okay. Because this time he's indicted along with his sister, who's a lawyer.
Okay.
So he's done it. He screwed it up once and then he screwed it up again. You follow me?
And he brought his sister into it.
Yeah, and
I'm following you. This is
This is quite screwed up. A New York podiatrist who was released from prison over the summer of 2021 after serving time for a murder for hire plot targeting his estranged wife with help from his then lover, an indictment alongside his sister, who's a lawyer, in connection with yet another alleged attempt at having his wife killed, who's evidently pretty sly and can get away from murder for hire plots.
She didn't divorce him after the first murder for hire plot?
I guess not. She's pretty loyal. Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. And
now her sister-in-law's in it?
No, his
that family hates you.
Yeah, that family is not liking you. I think it's time to bail. So now this lawyer, the sister, is involved in connection with yet another alleged attempt of having his wife killed, followed by an apparent cover-up. Oh, this is getting good, Brucer. Here we go.
Yeah, it is.
So,
this is a Law & Order episode right here.
Yes, it is. 1 year after Ira Bernstein exited prison, the 49-year-old from Montebello allegedly tried to arrange the murder of his wife, Susan Bernstein, for a second time. The difference is that this time, his sister, Jacqueline Goldberg, who's a 40-year-old from Bedford, and an employment attorney at the firm of Keen and Bean, PC. How would you like to do the commercials for that? Here at Keen and Bean, we'll get you a job, and if you lose it, we'll get it right back. Keen and Bean. Anyways, that's a horrible singing job, but you get the idea for the commercials. Keen and Bean is accused of playing a role in the covering up of the alleged conspiracy. So Goldberg at Keen and Bean. Look her up.
So he called up his sister and said, hey, look, you're a lawyer. I need to legally cover this up. And her sister's like, you know what? Yeah, I hate that bitch too. Let's kill this bitch and we'll cover it up.
She's like, you know what? I can find her a job, but that's about it. I'm an employment lawyer. But yeah, I'll help you get rid of her. Sure.
She stiffed me at the last white elephant.
Yeah, that's right. I ended up going home with the cheese grater. She's a dead woman.
We said $20 limit.
Yeah. $20 limit. The initial, and that was a $5 cheese grater. The initial and sensational 2016 conspiracy case against Ira Bernstein and Kelly Grebeluk, now 42, ended with the pair's imprisonment in New York in 2017.
Okay.
All right. That same year, Bernstein and Grebeluk, a former mortician turned orthotics saleswoman. There's a career turn. I bet that happened with the help of the sister.
Probably.
Yeah. How do you go from...
She goes from stiffs to prosthetics.
Yeah. How do you go from that?
Well, maybe she was sick and tired of seeing dead people, so she didn't want to see amputated people.
I guess. And now she's the mother of 3 young boys. Evidently, people get horned up over orthotics. Who knew? Spoke about how she and the father of 3 fell for one another. She completely understood me, Ira told NBC's Dateline. Like, I found someone who actually got me. And she has a sexy kind of look to her.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess. So
this is not the wife. This is the lover.
Yeah, this is the lover. He's talking about how, she's turning him on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, it's like sometimes she has 3 hands. I don't know why.
that big clubby boot that she pulled out was amazing. I couldn't stop getting hard over it. Asked during the Dateline interview if they were physically attracted to one another, Grebeluk replied without hesitation. Of course, she said, citing her chemistry with the then active podiatrist. Oh, I get this now.
I bet you they met because she was trying to sell him something.
Yeah. He brings the club foot to her, who's got the shoe. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
He called her up and said, look, this lady's losing a toe. Come on in. And then while you're in fixing her for a new toe, daddy like.
She said that Ira had opened up about a separation from Susan Bernstein and that the two had found that they had relationship trauma in common. This is a bizarre story. I wanted them to do what was best for their family, Grebeluk complained. She did that too. In reality, however, Kelly had approached a car salesman who once sold her a vehicle to help find a potential hitman. Oh, this is how you do it. To help find a potential hitman who would be paid to kill Ira's wife. Oh, you always go to a sleazy car guy. Yeah.
The guy who owns AML Wrestling is like one of the largest used car salesmen in the world. I should hit him up. Hey, do you know any hitmen?
Know any hitmen? Yeah.
Other than Bret Hart? You know any hitmen?
Other than Bret Hart. Gribbeluck and Bernstein went to prison after pleading guilty to conspiracy charges. Their story went on to be chronicled by reporter Chris Hansen.
Oh, yeah.
They were on Dateline.
Chris Hansen.
Kelly was sentenced to 4 to 12 years, and Ira got 5 to 15 years behind bars. Both of them were paroled in 2021, according to New York Department of Corrections records. Authorities now allege that Ira Bernstein has tried a second time to bring about his estranged wife's death.
It's called divorce, dude. Come on.
Yeah,
you already went to jail once.
It's really easy. You just fill out the papers, have her sign them. You're good to go.
I'm surprised she stuck with him through the prison thing. He's going to jail for what? Well, ma'am, he hired a hitman to kill you. Oh, no, I think you misunderstood him. He's a big wrestling fan. He hired Bret the Hitman Hart to speak to me.
Yeah.
I still love him. But he has a lover here. No. That's his orthopedic contact sales lady. She sells
orthotics. Yeah. She's an orthotics lady. Yeah. I got my Dr. Scholl's inserts from her.
She said my left leg is a little bit shorter than my right, so she gave me a lift.
She got me lifts. Yeah, she'll lift you up all right. When Rockland County District Attorney Thomas E. Walsh II announced the indictment on Friday, he stated that Ira Bernstein solicited to have his wife killed from July 29th, 2022 through September 21st of 2022. Ira Bernstein is alleged to have solicited the murder of his wife, Susan Bernstein, and subsequently conspired to destroy evidence of the solicitation with his sister, Jacqueline Goldberg, according to the DA's office. As a result, Bernstein is charged with second-degree criminal solicitation, fourth-degree criminal solicitation, fifth-degree conspiracy, and tampering with physical evidence. Jacqueline Goldberg was indicted for tampering with physical evidence, third-degree hindering prosecution, and fifth-degree conspiracy.
See, his first mistake is he went back to the same used car salesman they went to before.
Well, let's find out, because I have a feeling that... I mean, where else do you go to find another hitman other than the sleazy
next time
car
you're
guy?
buying a car, you're upset with your spouse, ask the car salesman.
I wonder if you can find them on Carfax, too.
Oh, yeah. That's the dark web for hitmen.
Carfax.
Show me the hit facts.
Hit facts. I commend the Ramapo Police Department for their investigative work and the detectives from Rockland County District Attorney's Office who assisted with the case. Walsh said, "We will now move forward with the prosecution phase of the case." Ramapo Police Chief Martin Riley echoed those remarks in a statement of his own. He went on to pat everybody on the back and yay, yay, yay. The defendants were arraigned Thursday, June 1st in Judge Robert Prisco's courtroom. The Keen and Bean Law Firm's website as of Monday morning still featured Goldberg prominently in a photo with her attorneys. Here's one of the co-defendants right there for you, Bruiser.
Oh, she's not that bad looking.
Oh, she's a handsome lady.
I wonder which one's Keen and which one's Bean.
That's a good question. I have a feeling they're probably surrounding the defendant right there.
Yeah.
Keen's probably on the left. Bean's probably on the right. Bean's the one with the shiny head. I would think he's probably...
Definitely not the Asian guy in the photo.
Might not be. Although you never know. I mean, we could be casting aspersions here.
It could be Bean A.
Bean A. Ms. Goldberg acts as labor counsel to various municipalities and private employers, attending to matters including general compliance with state and federal laws, collective bargaining with unions. Oh, that's where she got the hit.
That's where she got it from. Yep.
Employee discipline, improper practice charges, grievance hearings, and arbitrations, her firm bio says in part, noting the lawyer also concentrates her practice on the defense of police misconduct, malicious prosecution, and false arrest. She was named a member of the firm in 2018 after working there for 8 years. So she really blew a nice career over,
She must have owed her brother huge. I wonder what he did for her that he called in that favor.
I don't know.
Because that's a huge thing. Like, she's going to lose her license and everything.
Yeah. According to Rockland County DA's office, Bernstein could face 3.5 to 7 years in prison if convicted of the second-degree criminal solicitation charge. In 2016, Jacqueline Goldberg walked out of court arm in arm with her parents after her brother made bail. So it's just a stupid criminal story all the way around, if you like those kind of stories. If you really want a stupid criminal story, you ready for this?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
What do you think is the most valuable thing in a cemetery?
The headstone.
You would think, right?
Yeah, or unless you go into the grave and they're buried with jewelry, but you have no idea knowing they were buried with jewelry or not. So I'd say the headstone.
If I told you the most valuable thing and the most easy thing to steal in a cemetery is the vase or the vase, would that surprise you?
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
That's more expensive than a headstone, huh?
Well, no, it's not more expensive, but it's the easiest thing to lift and get money for.
That's true. No, okay, yeah, because moving a headstone is hard.
It's pretty damn hard, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was an Apple AirTag that helped locate $62,000 worth of vases that were stole from grave sites.
Whoa.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
That's a lot of vases.
Yeah, isn't it? A Texas family used an Apple AirTag to help police locate $62,000 worth of vases stolen from grave sites. More than 100 bronze vases were taken from graves in a cemetery in Brazoria County, which is about 45 minutes south of Houston, over the past 2 months.
Wow.
That's $62,000 worth of vases in 2 months.
And I bet you they're waiting for the price of bronze to go up before they get unloaded them.
That's right. The thieves, who apparently intended to sell the vases as scrap metal, were nabbed by an enterprising family who used an Apple AirTag to catch them. One such vase was stolen from the grave of Tony Velasquez's uncle at Restwood Memorial Park in Clute. So when the family went to replace it, they attached the Apple device to it and gave local police the information needed to track it. They gave us the login information and allowed us then to track it. We tracked it to a residence right outside of the town of Brazoria. Clute Police Chief James Fitch told the outlet.
Do you think the cops are like, man, we need to start doing stuff like this? This is a smart idea.
Right.
Why didn't we think of that?
Right. I mean, it says here the clever method led to the arrest of 3 of the men who were charged with third-degree felony theft. They had actually tried to take the entire vases to a scrapyard that turned them down, luckily, Fitch noted. So the scrapyard went, no, we know what these are. We're not taking them.
Yeah, they probably figured, oh, no, you took these from a graveyard. That was the thing, too, is they went to one scrapyard where they could have went to like 5 or 6.
Yeah, and could have brought
unload a couple here or there.
Yep. A 4th suspect is now being sought, according to police. Velasquez said his family lost $1,200 in the ordeal and is asking for the cemetery to put security measures in place. Overnight security, maybe some light posts around here, he told the outlet. Restwood Funeral Home said the problem is widespread and difficult to monitor. Unfortunately, the theft of bronze vases is an issue at cemeteries across North America, the funeral home said in a statement. It saddens us that thieves are preying on cemeteries and grave sites to commit these crimes. However, cemeteries by their nature are open to the public.
Yeah, grave robbing's been a thing since graves were a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's sad, but that's a fact of life.
But imagine that's the easiest and probably the most expensive thing that you can lift and cash in very quickly.
If Apple was smart, they would use this opportunity, because they use an Apple tag for it, as, hey, worried about theft, use the Apple tag, you know?
Absolutely. Think about putting one of those and disguising it on your bike. I mean,
exactly.
Of all things that get stolen very easily, your bike.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Put it on the underside of your seat.
Yeah, Apple can make a lot of money off this story, I think.
Yep.
I think a lot of people, because look at us, we didn't know. We didn't think vases. We thought headstones.
Yeah.
So no one's thinking that when you put a vase down with the flowers and stuff in it, you get one of those in fact, the graveyard up over here, I see them all the time.
Yeah.
They're just stuck to the headstone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're all bronze because it's weather resistant.
Yep.
I mean, Apple, you're missing out, Apple. Like this Apple PR, this is your story to sell Apple tags.
There you go. Apple AirTags. They're handy for a lot of things.
Yeah. Like I would approach every funeral home in America.
They're also they're handy to put inside your luggage.
There you go. Another one.
Yeah. So if you check your luggage when you travel, put them inside your luggage. And so when the airport says we don't know where your luggage is, you tell them, I know exactly where my luggage is. This is where it's at.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. I know somebody had an iPad it was their iPad in their luggage, and their luggage got lost, and they just pinged their iPad.
Yep.
They're like, oh, it's here. Airport's like, no, our systems don't show that. He goes, I'm showing you. Look, it's sitting right here.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, they'll try to deny too. But if you have air tags in your bags, you just say, hey, these are the where they are. They're exactly right here. Go find them.
Yep.
And you give them the location. They'll go find them. We should
be PR for Apple. Apple, if you want to sponsor us, we got you.
There you go. This next story, Bruiser. Boy, I'll tell you, there's dumb crimes and there's stupid criminals, and then there's really stupid criminals that just take the cake and probably set the record for being incredibly stupid. This box-wearing thief dropped his disguise long enough to reveal his face and helped led to his arrest. It just goes beyond words. This boneheaded move landed this box-wearing thief in criminal trouble. First of all, I'm going to show you what his disguise looked like, Bruiser, so you can get an even bigger laugh. There you go.
You know what? He had no intentions of robbing this place. And at the last second was like, I need to rob this place. And he went back into the recycling and found a box.
Yeah. And actually, let me see if I can get this video started so you can see what exactly. This is what it looked like when he lifted the box up. He was trying to break open this case.
Yeah.
And as
he couldn't see, he forgot to cut eye holes in the box.
Right. Yeah. And as he's smashing the case, the box actually lifts up as he's smashing the case.
And he forgot to put in eye holes, so he can't see what he's doing. Yeah. He needs to learn. Who's that guy in Fat Albert? Remember the show Fat Albert?
Oh, yeah.
The guy that had his hat over his eyes?
That was Dumb Donald, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah. That's what that guy needs to take from.
A robbery suspect was caught on surveillance video wearing a cardboard box over his head while allegedly stealing phones from a Florida store. But he briefly removed the ill-fitting ad hoc mask, according to a report. The owner of iRepair Tech, which is located in Miami Gardens, shared the footage with NBC6 of the bizarre break-in carried out around 4 a.m. this past Saturday. The footage shows the unidentified man smashing glass displays and swiping phones while sporting the box in an apparent attempt to conceal his face. He briefly removes the box from his head at one point as he rummages through the store's merchandise. Not a good move.
No. Cut eye holes in it, dude.
Yeah. Store owner Jeremias Berganza told NBC6 the man stole 19 iPhones and $8,000 in cash.
It's not going to go far because this guy's an idiot.
Right. Berganza said that after he saw the man's face, he began to look around the plaza where his cell phone repair business is located and asked others to let him know if they saw the suspect. Eventually, the alleged thief was found in the same plaza drinking with buddies at a nearby liquor store, leading to his arrest by Miami Gardens police later that day, according to the outlet. He didn't even go that far.
Yeah, he went to the... Another mental note. If your local watering hole is next to someplace you want to rob, don't go back to your local watering hole.
Yeah. Authorities have not released the suspect's name or more information about the robbery, probably because they're embarrassed for this guy.
Yeah, they're probably like, this guy is going to be humiliated. We should just let it go until it becomes public knowledge.
Yeah, it's sad. This story won a couple of years ago, I think, for one of the most embarrassing things you can ever do on an airplane. It was just embarrassing behavior all the way around, although got one of the sweetest tweets ever regarding the behavior. American Airlines passenger is sentenced for a rampage jumping down an inflatable slide to end it all. I don't know if you remember this story or not, Bruiser. But
no, were they expected to get enough speed their head would smash against the ground or something?
I don't know. An American Airlines passenger from upstate New York has been sentenced for going on a rampage, spitting on a fellow flyer, and then jumping off an inflatable slide just before takeoff in Buffalo last year.
Oh, geez.
24-year-old Cynthia McKnight of Rochester was sentenced to time served and 3 months probation for the incident on the flight from Buffalo to Chicago. Of course, they were going to Chicago. On April 19th of 2022, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of New York said on Friday on the flight she had engaged in a verbal altercation with one passenger, then spat on another passenger. As a result, the aircraft was required to return to the gate. McKnight then attempted to exit the aircraft as it was in motion on the ground, pushing a flight attendant in the process who had attempted to prevent her from opening an aircraft door, which is always fun.
Yeah.
McKnight.
Those things are heavy to open, too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I don't know why when you start moving, you want to automatically open the door. I can understand having anxiety. I get that.
Yeah, I get anxious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never once think of spitting or, oh my God, I got to get out of here.
Right. McKnight was able to open an aircraft door, which deployed the aircraft's emergency slide and exited the aircraft. McKnight was convicted of simple assault. There's nothing simple about it. She had faced a maximum penalty of 6 months in jail and a $5,000 fine. Now, here comes the fun stuff. One of the passengers on board that day was Spencer Brown, an offensive tackle for the NFL's Buffalo Bills, who tweeted about the incident afterwards. Spencer, being an educated man, came up with a great tweet. He said, "Sitting on a plane, a lady is pissed. Lady pulls the emergency inflatable slide to escape the plane. Lady is running wild through the tarmac currently. Cops have arrived. Flight ruined. Memories made. No noise," he says.
Flight ruined.
Memories made. Noise.
Do you think they gave all those passengers miles for that?
Oh, I think so, yeah. How do you not give them miles for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They play the Benny Hill music while she's being chased by airport security on the tarmac.
It's required over the overhead speakers so everyone can get a good laugh. Because at that point, you have to laugh. I mean,
this is just one of those moments where you're like, because travel days suck.
This is Cynthia McKnight, by the way, who ran all over the tarmac, just so Bruiser can see her.
Why does she look like she's judging the person taking the picture of her?
She does, doesn't she? She's got the Judgy McJudgerton face on. For those of you in the Twin Cities who remember the gossip columnist CJ, she looks exactly like CJ from the Star Tribune.
She's definitely got RBI resting bitch or RBF resting bitch face. Yeah,
she's the spitting image of the columnist CJ from the Star Tribune. So if you can imagine CJ from the Star Tribune jumping off a plane, that's you got it right there.
And running around like Benny Hill.
That's right. We get into our food section, Bruiser, of Dumb Crime Stupid Criminals. We're here, folks. Does it feel like a brand new day?
It does.
Yeah, it feels good. Feels good, doesn't it? We start out at what I like to think is one of my more favorite fast food places.
Which is that?
Sonic.
Ugh.
You don't like Sonic?
I like the cherry limeades, and that's it. Their food always tastes burnt. It's always gross.
Really?
I have to. That goes through me faster than White Castle does. Oh yeah, I hate it, and I know. See, so in Missouri,
yeah,
when I trained at the Harley Race Wrestling Academy, right next door was a Sonic.
Okay, yeah.
So at least once a week I'd have Sonic. We'd all go out because we always trained and then went out to eat. And we had a rotation. And so once a week, I don't like their tots. I don't like anything. I don't like their ice cream, nothing. And I went through the whole menu trying to find something I like.
Okay.
I can stomach their hot dogs.
Yeah.
But when I hear people, I remember when I moved back to Wisconsin, when we lived over there, they just built a Sonic there and everybody was all excited. And I'm like, no. I'm like, Mrs. Bruiser's, oh my God, I've always wanted this. I kept telling her no. And then when she got it, she's like, this tastes burnt. I go, that's all their food is. It's burnt.
Maybe it was just that Sonic.
Every Sonic I've went to, there's one here in North Carolina that she'll hit up and she'll bring me, because I like the cherry limeade. The cherry limeade's really good.
Yeah.
That's it.
Huh. Okay. I don't know. Yeah. The Sonics I've been to, like in Colorado and Minnesota, they've been really good.
Terrible everywhere I've been. And I've been to North Carolina, Missouri, Tennessee, Wisconsin. I haven't been to one in Minnesota, so.
Okay. Huh. Interesting. Yeah. Well, this Sonic employee is arrested after he came up with a magical new ingredient, Bruiser, that maybe you're just missing in the food. Or
Please don't be sperm.
No. Or maybe this is the ingredient that's been included that maybe this is why it's burnt and it tastes like shit. Maybe.
Okay.
It turns out that a customer found cocaine in his hot dog.
See, that might make it better.
Maybe that would make the food much better. And it turns out that's why you move so fast after you've had it. And this is where they get Sonic the Hedgehog from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's Sonic the Hedgehog is a hedgehog on cocaine.
Yes, it's just a hedgehog on coke. Cocaine bear, cocaine hedgehog, same thing. The whole entire animal kingdom is coked out.
Why would you waste your cocaine on putting it in food?
I don't know. That's interesting, isn't it? That Coke is too expensive to put in food.
So I have to admit an incriminating thing here.
Okay, go ahead.
When I was 20, going to 21, I used to work at, my buddy owned a pizza place in the city I grew up in. Mm-hmm. And his pizza was amazing. Yep. And my other buddy was his manager, and they needed a delivery driver. So I'm like, I'll do it. It can help me focus on becoming a wrestler. And
sure.
You know, and I get to hang out with my buddies, you know, and basically all we did was drink and screw around. Yeah. Well, I had scored some magic mushrooms. Oh. And the plan was when it was a half hour to closing time, we were going to eat the mushrooms, close up the shop, and just hang out, because we used to hang out there all the time. Yeah. You know, and just have fun. Okay. That was the plan. Yeah. Gets to about half hour to closing time. My buddy looks at me and goes, all right, let's bust these out. I says, all right, well, hand me them. They're over there. I put them over on the table over there in a little baggie. And he goes, there's no baggie over here. Oh, no. So what do you mean there's no baggie over there? He says, there's no baggie over here. Someone had ordered a mushroom pizza. Oh, no. And in the busyness, our other buddy went to refill the mushrooms, saw the bag of mushrooms sitting there, dumped that in the regular mushrooms. And so our magic mushrooms got put on a pizza and delivered. Unbeknownst to us. It wasn't on purpose.
Someone ordered the best pizza ever.
Well, we found out a couple of days later it was an older guy.
Oh my God.
And he claimed that it was the best pizza he ever had. So he'd always, every week, would order just a mushroom pizza, expecting the same result. He did it for a year straight before we found out that he was the recipient of those.
Oh my God. Seriously?
Yeah.
Did he get
He came in about a year later. He came in and he was talking to us. He's like, I don't know what it was, but a year ago I had this pizza from here and it was the greatest pizza ever. And it put me on a different level and it opened up my mind's eye and all that. And like, we had to play stupid. Like, we had no idea. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy shit.
So I had to call, I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but a guy who sold drugs that I'm real close with, or used to be. And I had to explain to him, hey, I need to make another order. And he asked why, because he had told us too, like try and put them on your pizza, like cook your pizza, put them on your pizza. It's a fun way, that way you're not just eating dry mushrooms. Yeah. So that was our plan, and then I had to explain to him. So he came back and he gave us half price for the new batch because he thought it was funny.
Oh my God.
So yeah.
That is amazing.
Unless it's a mistake, why would you waste your drugs? You know what I mean?
Right,
that's the point I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
We did that on accident because we didn't smarten up the third guy working with us. Say, hey, these are for the three of us at the end of our shift. Don't serve them to customers.
That is crazy. Oh my God.
So I hope it's not in crude egg. It was over, 26 years ago that this happened. So
I think the statute of limitations is over on that deal.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the guy that took him is long gone because he was 40 at the time. So,
well, he could still be around.
Yeah, he could be.
He could be.
Yeah. So, that's my. I understand. That's why I don't get. Why would you waste your cocaine?
Yeah,
cocaine and Sonic.
Cocaina. Well, an employee at a Sonic drive-in restaurant in New Mexico was arrested after he lost his bag of cocaine that somehow ended up on a customer's hot dog.
I can relate, man. I can relate.
54-year-old Jeffrey David Salazar. That's what's sad. He's 54 and still putting his Coke on people's hot dogs.
So the next time you order a hot dog from Coke, say, I'd like ketchup, mustard, a little bit of chili. Hold the cocaine.
Yeah, hold the coke. Faces a felony charge for possession of a controlled substance.
But he wasn't possessing it. Somebody else had it.
That's true. Police said illegal narcotics were discovered in a customer's recent Coney purchase at Sonic. The substance was inadvertently placed in the food as Salazar was preparing the order. A field test confirmed the substance. In other words, they tried it. Do you think they rubbed it into their gums? Confirmed the substance discovered in the food was cocaine. According to the incident report, a woman called police on Tuesday after she bit into her food only to discover she had bitten into a plastic bag, according to the Rio Grande Sun. Oh, he put the entire thing in there.
Yeah, he didn't empty it. He put the bag in there too. Oops. I bet you he was leaning over to grab something and it fell out of his pocket.
It says she does believe I think they meant she doesn't believe any of the powdered substance went into her mouth.
Well, she would know.
Yeah, she'd know.
When you're up for 3 days after that.
Yeah. The affidavit for the arrest warrant says Salazar was observed on video surveillance conducting what appeared to be a hand-to-hand transaction with a female employee. Salazar then makes her food before appearing to frantically search the area as if he might have lost something. Salazar admitted to police he purchased the cocaine from someone in the restaurant's parking lot. That, according to the arrest warrant, it's quite funny.
Yeah, that's actually really funny.
Yeah. So there you go. There's that story. We continue with our food stories. A customer ordered a chicken sandwich before trying to rob a Nashville McDonald's. The suspect,
he was a hungry robber.
I guess so. The suspect ran away from the restaurant after removing his shirt.
What makes you faster? You know that, Tim.
Well, either that or it was a hot chicken sandwich. So there you go. That's one of, yeah. So there you go. Yeah, hot chicken sandwich. God, what is wrong with people? You can't just order the...
Why would you say, okay, give me all the money, put it in this bag, and I want that McChicken right there.
I want that hot McChicken. A customer at a Nashville McDonald's ordered a chicken sandwich before trying to rob the restaurant on Wednesday afternoon, according to the Metro Nashville Police Department. 31-year-old Jamonte Calvin Smith is charged with attempted robbery and aggravated burglary, among other charges. Police say they responded to the McDonald's at 311 Harding Place on May 31st to investigate the attempted robbery. The restaurant's manager said Smith ordered a chicken sandwich and tried to pay with cash. When the cash register drawer opened, police said Smith lunged over the counter and tried to steal money. There was a struggle between the manager and Smith over the cash drawer. Smith later ran away from the restaurant after removing his shirt. That, according to the report, it's unclear if he got away with any cash. Smith came back to the same McDonald's location the next day, and officers were able to track him down and arrest him.
What?
Again, coming back to the scene of the crime, yeah. Evidently, the chicken was good.
Or he didn't get his sandwich and he was coming back for that.
I don't know.
Hey, I ordered a chicken sandwich yesterday and I never received it. Oh, do you have your receipt? I'm the guy that tried to rob you.
Yeah, I didn't get all the money, so I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
He was charged additionally with evading arrest. So you got that. You got that on there too. Smith remains jailed on about $55,000 bond.
That's a lot of chicken sandwiches.
Especially if it's on the dollar menu. That's very expensive. We continue with our last food story. If you thought that was bad, if you think you have a caffeine and sugar problem,
I don't, but okay.
I found a guy who's got the sweetest tooth of all.
This isn't the guy. What was it? Did we have it on Supernatural News or True Crime where the guy, all he drank was Coca-Cola and Pepsi? Didn't eat?
No, the guy, the guy in Iran who, No, this is even better. You ready for this?
Yeah.
This guy stole 144 chocolate bars in front of CCTV, then got away with it.
Okay.
But came back to the same store. It's a theme today. To steal coffee. And then ended up getting picked up. He ended up getting...
You got to wash it down with some.
I guess, but the chocolate should have you wired.
Oh, yeah.
especially 144 bars of chocolate. We're going to break it down for you here. Jordan Thompson was fresh out of jail when he stole 144 bars of chocolate from a co-op just to return shortly after and steal 10 jars of coffee, landing himself back behind bars. We go to England, or we go over across the pond, where a bungling sweet-toothed shoplifter nicked 144 bars of chocolate right in front of CCTV, only to return later to steal some coffee.
Of course.
Of course.
Because, why not return? They have good coffee there.
That's right. Jordan Thompson has been thrown behind bars for the second time this year for his sticky-fingered thievery. The compulsive thief stole, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
48 Twix bars, 48 Snickers bars, 24 Bounty bars, and 24 Yorkie bars from Co-op in Worthing, West Sussex on April 30th. Have you ever had a Bounty or a Yorkie bar?
I haven't had those yet, but the other ones are good.
Yeah, Twix and Snickers aren't bad. You can, I believe, at either Hy-Vee or Byerly's here in Minnesota, you can get a Bounty or a Yorkie bar.
Okay, I'll have to look see if they have them around here.
Yeah, if you go to a higher end grocery store that imports chocolate, yeah, you should be able to get a Bounty or a Yorkie bar.
Okay, I'll try it. See if it's worth stealing.
Yeah, see if it's worth hoisting in your shorts. Then, if it wasn't bad enough, Thompson returned to the scene of the crime, unaware that he had been caught red-handed on CCTV and stole even more. The second time,
the manager's like, "Hey, no way! There's no way! Hey, Tom, come here! Yeah, is that no?
Is that that Jordan Thompson kid? Is he back?" The second time, Thompson took 10 jars of coffee. Where do you put 10 jars of coffee?
In a coffee maker.
Well,
he's opening a Starbucks. That's his plan.
I mean, when you're stealing it, not where you put it when you get home.
He plans to open a coffee shop. That's his plan.
Oh, he's got big plans, so he's going to steal the inventory. He's not going to. Where he gets the building is not relevant.
No overhead. He's going to steal a building too. He's just going to. It's going to pop up.
He's just going to squat somewhere, and that's going to be his coffee shop.
And it's going to be called Stolen Brew.
Stolen Brew. Yes. Sussex police added that he wasn't done there and went on to steal 5 packets of washing detergent, 2 bottles of vodka, and a large quantity of meat from various stores in Worthing in the weeks that followed. So he just doesn't believe in paying for anything.
No. That's why they need a Sam's Club over there.
Just a one-stop shop where you can just get everything done. Shockingly, this all came not long after being released from prison for similar offenses. So you just can't stop stealing. He was jailed today for 22 weeks. Police added, as a persistent offender, staff were quickly able to identify Thompson and alert police, providing a number of CCTV clips as evidence. I pity the day that this guy actually goes straight and tries to pay for something and everybody thinks he's still stealing.
Yeah, he's going to walk in and everyone's going to be like, nope, get out. We know you. He's
going to get searched everywhere he goes.
Yep.
The other stores included Co-op in South Street, Worthing Savers in Montague Street, Worthing Tesco in Dominion Road, Worthing and Co-op in Ham Road in Shoreham. The 30-year-old of no fixed address, so yeah, he's pretty much squatting wherever he goes, was arrested and charged with 6 counts of theft relating to a total of 357 pounds worth of goods. He admitted all offenses and was jailed for a total of 22 weeks at Crawley Magistrates Court. He was also ordered to pay £239 in costs. Police Sergeant Sam Milsom of the Response Investigations Team said a number of our officers worked with great efficiency, assisted by our business crime team, to present a case to the Crown Prosecution Service in a timely manner. I don't think they had much to work on. They just said he stole a bunch of crap. Here it is. Yeah, and here's all the video.
Him stealing it. Go get him.
Yeah. They went on to say, I hope Thompson learns from his previous mistakes and gets the support he needs to put a stop to his criminality, which causes so much harm to the business community. So there you go. We have 2 stories left here on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. This one turns a good guy into a bad guy.
Ooh, okay.
With a little bit of help from their pregnant friends.
That's why you never want to live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
That's right.
Isn't that the Batman saying?
That is, yes. That's the same.
Yeah.
A Miami cop allegedly beat up her cheating boyfriend with the help from his pregnant lover. This one's got "Rest in Peace, Jerry Springer" written all over it.
Oh, God, yeah.
Mm-hmm. An off-duty Florida cop was arrested for allegedly teaming up with a pregnant woman to beat the guy who had been dating both of them at the same time.
Hey, you stand in front of me, he won't hit you. You're pregnant.
That's right. Just put your arms up like this. He won't hit you. Miami-Dade officer 34-year-old Ana Alicia Perez and 35-year-old Mila Zuloga both face battery charges after they confronted the boyfriend they unknowingly shared at a Palmetto Bay restaurant. Oh, it happened in public, Bruiser.
Oh, this is even better.
On Friday after midnight, according to police. The man, who has yet to be identified, and he's probably asking, please don't identify me, was cornered by the two women inside the Miller's Ale House as they yelled at him about the infidelity, with the tense scene escalating, with Perez and Zuloga beating him senselessly, according to their arrest reports. Police said both women struck the man multiple times in the face and torso, leaving him with bruises and an injured lower lip. It remains unclear if the women agreed beforehand to confront their boyfriend or if they stumbled upon him with the other by chance inside the restaurant. Police noted that while Perez was dating the man, he shared a home with Zuloga, who is 7 months pregnant. This sounds like an episode of Cheaters, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was going to say, like, he probably unwillingly or unknowingly invited them both to the same restaurant.
Well, we'll find out here. Miami-Dade Police Director Alfredo Ramirez says the department is working with the state's attorney's office to investigate the incident regarding the officer, who has since been placed on leave with pay pending the review of the case. That's a nice vacation.
Yeah.
I am disappointed by this officer's action, Ramirez said in a statement. We are held to a higher standard of conduct on and off duty. Although this officer was off duty, her behavior was unacceptable, and it goes against the core values of our department. Oh, he's shaming the female cop.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just because she's an officer.
I see. Zuloga was transported to the Miami-Dade Police Department's Special Victims Bureau, while Perez was taken to the TGK Detention Center. I'm surprised that the captain didn't shame the male as well.
Yeah, when he's the one causing all this.
Yeah.
But he didn't really break any laws. There's no law saying you can't date two women.
True, but, to cause a ruckus inside of a public place.
Yeah, but they started it. He's just the innocent. I'm not defending him by any means.
Right.
I'm just saying why they didn't find anything wrong with him is because he technically didn't start anything. They assaulted him.
True.
This reminds me of a story of my buddy on one of his birthdays. We all went to a bar, and he had pissed a lot of us off.
Yeah.
So we called every girl he had dated in the last 2 years and told them that he was really sorry and wanted to meet them and apologize. And we had him show up half-hour increments to the bar.
Oh, my God.
So after about 2 hours, there's about 15 women in this bar that had all slept with our buddy. And he had brought a girl with him for his birthday.
Oh, no.
And just watching him backpedal and try to bounce between the women.
Oh, my God.
We had a blast. He's like, that could have gone so wrong. I could have gotten so, and we're like, no, you were fine. We weren't going to let anything happen to you. We just want you to know, don't mess with us because
we're vindictive.
Yeah, we'll put you in a bad spot.
That's classic. Oh, my God. That is horrible, but funny.
Very
horrible, but funny. Our last story today on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals will put a new term in your dichotomy. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. This is a not safe for work segment, right?
It is, yes. I should have said that other story was technically not safe for work, but this is now not safe for work. So if you're ready, you're going to turn down your listening devices. You're going to get them away from the boss. You're going to take and get the kids out of the room. If you're, God forbid, you're listening to the show with kids in the room. I don't know why. But if you are, then shame on you. But get the kids out of the room. We're going to start this here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here is the new word for your dichotomy. The new word that you're going to put in your vocabulary. Oakenfap.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Paul Oakenfold?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
Those who are on the club scene or the techno scene are familiar with DJ Paul Oakenfold.
Okay.
Okay.
So he's a house DJ. Gotcha.
House DJ. Plays a lot of festivals, a lot of techno things. A lot yeah. There you go, Bruiser. There you go.
Yeah.
You got it down. You got the beat down, so to speak.
I've been to a few raves in my lifetime.
There you go. You keep that beat going. There you go. Well, he likes to keep the beat in other ways. There you go. DJ Paul Oakenfold is accused of masturbating in front of his assistant in a new suit.
Well, his assistant should have. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to defend him.
Oh, come on.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
Don't masturbate in front of your assistants.
It's bad form.
Yeah. If people should learn nowadays, people don't want to, unless you're asked to. Don't just assume somebody wants to see you masturbate.
That's one to grow on.
Yeah. Like, that's what 2020 should have taught us. If you're not asked to, don't pull your genitalia out.
If you're not asked to.
Like, I'm talking dick pictures, masturbating in front of people, just whipping it out to get some fresh air. Nope. Unless you're asked to do it, don't do it.
Whipping it out to get fresh air. I don't think I've ever once in my life done that.
No?
No.
I've done a lot of outdoor shows.
Outdoor shows.
You're changing in a tent. It's hot.
Yeah.
You gotta air the balls out. Make sure no one's around you.
Okay. Sure.
Or ask permission. Hey, my balls need air now. Is that okay with you?
My God, you've had way too many Me Too movements in your day, haven't you?
I have.
Yeah.
It's better than sitting in front of my air conditioner naked with my legs spread apart eating an ice pop.
My God.
That's how we dealt with the heat in Missouri.
That conjures images that it's going to turn some people on and turn some people off, and I'm not going to discern which.
Yeah.
I don't get paid that much. So anyways, we get back to DJ Paul Oakenfold, who, when he asks you to take dictation, he means it.
That guy's watched way too many porns in his lifetime.
Yes, he has. Grammy-nominated DJ Paul Oakenfold allegedly masturbated in front of his ex-personal assistant, who is now suing him for sexual harassment. This, according to a report. The British trance DJ, which I guess he officially is.
Yeah, I guess.
What kind of trance do you get when you just see him stroking it up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down?
I want to know if he did it in rhythm.
Up. What is that last part?
You know, that's.
Okay, I got it. I got you. Yeah. I thought maybe he impaled himself. I didn't know what that was.
He could have pulled a muscle. I don't know how hard he's going.
That sounded painful. Ouch.
He could be going.
He tore a quad. He pulled a Triple H. The British trance DJ is accused of exposing and touching himself in front of the then 23-year-old staffer starting on her very first day. Oh, wow.
Oh, hey.
Happy hazing.
Hey, we didn't cover this in the interview, but this is the kind of guy I am.
Yeah. So there's White Claw in the fridge. Watch me touch myself.
So what's my schedule look like? Well, you have lunch at noon. You're at Club Paragon here. Oh, and you got about 10 minutes free right now. Oh, I do? Well, okay, here we go.
Oakenfap. Yeah.
So here, assistant, here's what I need you to do. I need you to call in my dry cleaning. I need you to confirm that Club Viper we're performing yet. And I need you to watch me masturbate and tell me how my form is.
Yeah. It's time for the Oakenfap rating time. Woo.
Think about putting this in my act. What do you think?
Yeah. So it's Oakenfold on the ones and twos, and here's number 3. Woo. Yeah.
Oh, you said you went to Princeton. I'm sorry. I thought you said you wanted to see me masturbate. My bad.
biggest misunderstanding of all time. Boy. Okay, so the woman identified only as Jane Roe. Row the stick gently down the...
Is that the British version of Jane Doe?
I think so, yes. Is suing Oakenfold, who's 59 years old.
Oh, geez. Come on, man.
You know he's still taking supplements if he's,
He probably just popped a Blue Chew when she walked in.
Oh, no.
He's like, well, I don't have 4 hours, so I got to get rid of this now.
That's right. Her former employee, New Frequency Management, Paul Stepanek. I did the bass backwards thing. Have you ever done that?
Yes.
Paul Stepanek Management and several unnamed defendants for damages in excess of $25,000 over the alleged sexual harassment and workplace violations. $25,000 doesn't feel like enough money.
No, she should be getting more. But she's suing. Why is she suing everybody? It's not like the marketing team's like, hey, we need you to go in to be this guy's assistant. Hey, careful, he jerks off in front of people.
God, Bruce.
I've gone through marketing, guys, and that's never been a question.
I don't know why I hit that button either. I think this is the international sound effect for flinging jizz. It's a mystery. Sorry, continue it. I know what you're saying. I mean, yeah, but I think the reason why she's suing the former employer and the management company is because, it's for damages overall. I mean, you just got to fling it around scattershot, so to speak, and it just, you gotta throw the charges out everywhere.
You got Spider-Man, the whole group.
Yeah, and just to see what sticks. You know what I'm saying?
So it's... You didn't hit the button. You gotta hit the button.
Yeah, that's what it is. So, yeah, Roe was hired by New Frequency in October 2022 and was assigned to work as personal assistant to Oakenfold, who has mixed tracks for stars such as Britney Spears, U2, and the Rolling Stones for $20 an hour.
Let me show you what Keith Richards was into.
She only worked for $20 an hour for this guy.
That's a lot in the music industry.
$20 an hour to watch this guy.
Well, yeah, but that wasn't why she was brought. It wasn't like that was the job where she showed up and the place was like, hey, we need you to go to Oakenfap's apartment. He's going to masturbate in front of you. You'll make $20 an hour. So actually you're only walking out with maybe $8.
$8.
That's $20 an hour.
That's after taxes.
Exactly.
From her very first day of employment, Oakenfold allegedly cornered her and, he purposefully in her view when they were alone in his room, Roe alleges. He continued to allegedly in front of her on 4 separate dates. And each time...
Oh, he did it more than once?
Yes. Yeah, he's a serial Oakenfapper.
There was some point in time
you gotta slap him on the head. It's just like a ketchup bottle. You gotta hit him.
I'm about to DJ and I do it the one time and she gives me the look, I'm not doing it again. Like, okay, she wasn't into it. Awesome, I might get away with this. But 4 times.
He's like, what do you think of this, sister, huh? What do you think of this? And she's like, ew. And he's like, never mind.
Okay, this position didn't do it for you. How was this position? This was Mick Jagger's favorite position.
Mick's favorite position. Keith really liked this one.
A little spunky.
No. So he continued in front of her on 4 separate dates, and each time increased in length and intensity, according to the court filing. So this guy didn't give up. Oakenfap was insatiable.
Yeah, he was fapping away. He eventually was just abusing himself. You just heard. I've been a naughty boy. So naughty.
On November 18th of 2022, Oakenfold is accused of touching himself 4 times over the span of the day in front of the young assistant.
In one day? At 59? He definitely was on Gucci.
Yep, there he is. He's just all over the place.
59, it's every day, or 4 times in one day.
I'm telling you, he's taking that supplement that Frank Thomas is peddling on TV.
Yeah.
He's like a spider monkey. He just can't keep his hands off of it.
Man, once and I'm just sleeping all day afterwards.
It's constant napping.
Yeah.
What's the name of my new album?
Wait, you want me to do it again?
Can't even slap the thing awake. In one of the instances, he sat in the passenger seat of her car and spread his legs wide and proceeded to,
Oh, look, there's Parliament, and I'm going to whip it out and jerk off. Sorry, King Charles really does this for me.
With the plaintiff only inches away as she drove him home from the post office. He was like,
mail does it for him.
You gonna lick that stamp, love? Roe reportedly froze in fear and shock as a result of the older man's alleged indecent exposure. And that's the best way you can put it, because he's 59 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How 4 times? That man.
Yeah, in one day. He doesn't do anything else. He's a DJ.
He always got to keep his hands busy, doesn't he?
God.
He's always mixing something.
Yeah. Whoa.
Even if it's baby batter. Hello, love. You want to meet my relatives?
No. God, no.
This one's spunky.
Oh, no. She reported the alleged harassment to Frequency Management CEO Paul Stepanek. This is why he's in the lawsuit on November 29th of 2022. It was slapped with a non-disclosure agreement to sign 2 days later.
Okay, now I see why she's suing them.
Yeah, that's why she's suing him. Yeah. Rose said she was forced into signing the NDA in order to continue working for Frequency Management. When she returned to work, she was reassigned to other clients, but her hours were dramatically reduced. Then on March 13th of 2023, she was informed that she was being laid off from the company due to lack of work. But Roe claims she was fired for reporting Oakenfap's behavior.
Yeah, they tried to cover it up.
Yeah. Defendants terminated plaintiff for not for any legitimate reason, but for retaliation for plaintiff's complaints about the aforementioned sexual harassment in violation of the law. The lawsuit states Paul Stepanek Management didn't immediately return a request for comment on behalf of the company or its client, Oakenfold, otherwise known as Oakenfap. So now Oakenfap is in your vocabulary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
59 4 times. It blows me away.
Do you think that man finds time to watch a ball game?
No.
Do you think he ever just takes in a sunset?
Yeah, while jerking off.
Do you think two-fisted doesn't pertain to drinking? Just saying.
Oh, I hope she wins this lawsuit. I really do.
I hope so, too. I hope she takes him for everything he has, and I'm not talking about this. Just saying. Oh, boy, Bruiser, what you got going on this weekend?
I'm off again this weekend, resting the body before my June picks up because I got shows coming up. I got autograph signings coming up. I got virtual meet and greets coming up. And take another weekend just to chill at home with the puppies and Mrs. Bruiser.
You have
before I fill myself up till surgery.
You have a huge show coming up, like on the 25th, is it?
Oh, I got 3 huge shows coming up. I have one on the 17th with numerous legends. And then the 25th, which will probably be my last match before, surgery. The Bouncers, me and Brian Malonis are getting back together.
Yeah.
One last time. Hopefully not the last, but one last time. And everybody's there. They have Joey Janela coming in, Angelina Love, which will be great to see Lauren again. I haven't seen her in, I think, Jay Briscoe's funeral was the last time I saw her.
Yep.
Brian Pillman Jr. is coming. I forget who else. Tommy Rich, Wildfire Tommy Rich. Been my first time meeting him. Yeah. And then on the 17th, I mean, I'm on with the Rock and Roll Express and a couple NWA guys. Like, I'm very excited. Last couple shows I booked myself on. I made sure that, because if this is my last time in the ring, I'm going out with a bang.
Yeah. Good shows coming up for Bruiser here if you're in the North Carolina.
And then on the 18th, I'm doing a virtual meet and greet. So any of our listeners that want to pop in, I'll have the details probably next week, and I'll be able to let everybody know. And you can pop in, say hi. You don't have to buy something. You can say hi, and you're a listener. And
yeah, that sounds good. We'll promote that as well. So yeah, that's coming up on the 18th. So lots of good stuff in store for Bruiser here. Boy, do we have an exciting week this week on the show.
All right.
Yeah, not only supernatural news tomorrow, Thursday show, Bruiser, what's a good way to put this? A bit of the bizarre, a bit of the unusual, and we're dealing with aliens.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, Paul Blake Smith is our guest on Thursday, and we're going to be talking about President Eisenhower and the supposed pact he made with aliens.
Ooh.
We're also talking about President Nixon and Jackie Gleason and the 4 dead aliens that President Nixon showed Jackie Gleason.
I've heard this urban legend, and I can't wait to hear about it even more.
Yeah, so that's coming up on Thursday. So it's a good week this week. Good week. You picked a good week to listen to the show, kids. That's for sure. So, yeah, good stuff today. Want to thank our guest today as well. A good show today, too, by gosh. And you know, we're talking about the subject of today, the subject that spawned the album Nebraska by Bruce Springsteen, helped Stephen King become a horror writer. The book Pro Bono, which I encourage you guys to go out and get. Man, I tell you, good stuff this week. Just good stuff. We try to dig up good topics from week to week. If you have a topic that you want to hear here on the show, just send it to me at tim@darknessradio.com, or you can also hit me up on social media. Be sure, though, if you have a topic that you want to hear on the show, that you send it along with some sort of contact name and number, or even a website with a contact us deal, that I have some sort of meat on the bone that I can follow, and I will get on that right away. Because, folks, I tell you, there's some great stuff out there that I'm coming up with in the next few weeks that you're going to love hearing here on the show. But in order to chase that bone and get that guest, I gotta have a little bit of a lead to go get him. I mean, you just can't throw something out in the wild and have me go chase it down.
Not like fishing, huh?
Right. But the book is Pro Bono: The 18-Year Defense of Caril Fugate. Jeff MacArthur is the guest we had on today, and boy, I tell you, it was everything and more. And again, talking about Caril Fugate was the 14-year-old girl that was drug along with Charles Raymond Starkweather on that killing spree throughout Nebraska. Yeah. So, or was she drug along? That's the subject of the book. And it focuses on Jeff's grandfather, who was the legal defense for Caril Fugate. So interesting stuff. There's also a Showtime movie out there right now that you can watch on the subject as well. So
okay.
So yeah, it's all good stuff. All good stuff this week. So yeah, good stuff. So
it's a good time to be a listener.
It is, man. I'm telling you, we're swinging for the fences and we're putting it over. So And again, we appreciate you listening to the show. We appreciate you listening to True Crime Tuesday, to Darkness Radio. If you love what you hear, go and give us a 5-star review wherever you hear us. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you hear us, leave those 5-star reviews. We appreciate it. So, tomorrow, Supernatural News right here on the program. We got some good stories for you, and we've got some Parashare. If you have a Parashare story, by the way, leave it, tim@darknessradio.com. Or you leave us an audio Parashare story by going to darknessradioshow.com, the website. Click on that blue button on the right-hand side. You got a 2-minute window in which to leave us that voice note. If you need more time, just click on that blue button again and leave us another 2 minutes. We'll stitch it together, and we will play your story here on the show. We got Sarah's story tomorrow, which is a really good one. So
Yeah, I can't wait.
yeah, so that's tomorrow. For Beer City Bruiser, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for listening to the best in true crime podcasting. This has been True Crime Tuesday.